Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. Now it's clobbering time, and this week's topic is going to be anime versus manga, and we got a
Oh wait, I
Vinzinger.
thought it was American
What
comics.
did I say? What did I say? I said
Anime versus manga.
anime versus comic. I don't even know what we talk about, ladies. Good night,
Different side
everybody.
of the same coin.
Yeah, tonight it's anime versus comics. Japanese comics versus Western comics. They're both comics. I'm not that ignorant, and we got Vinzinger here for the first time. How you doing, Vinzinger?
Good, good. You guys?
Yep, everything's. I'm good. I'm in a good mood too. We got James Lee over here, world-winning author. He's hanging out with. He took time off from hanging out with Stephen King and J.K. Rowling to be with us tonight. At the look down upon all the mere mortal party that all those successful authors have. And we got Marcus Kellerbrew over here, blue collar worker by day, comic book artist by night. How's everybody?
That's pretty much
Very
true.
good. Doing good.
I might as well do the right thing and let everybody know the Steins, right, James? That's your book.
That's one of them.
That's one of them. Yeah, it's the first. This is the first one, right?
That's the first one, yes.
Good. Because if I bought the second one first, I would have to go berserk. I can't deal with that. So anyway, we're going to talk about manga versus comics over here. We got Haldir in the chat. Hey, you doing, Haldir? I got to do the right thing and put out my link to my comic. We are so close to unlocking the first stretch goal. I got to show this too. I tested this out. I got a print made up of the back cover of Pro Tales #1, and just for size comparison, here is a regular comic book. Here is this. So it's too late to kind of put it on this campaign now. So my next campaign, which will be Patriarch #1, I'll be offering these prints.
It's better for Patriarch #1 because
it works better. I wanted to get one done to test it out, and this is so much better than I thought it was going to look. I don't know what you call it, but it's kind of like a glass, like a. I don't know. I got to read the.
So you're really close to the stretch goal, John.
Yeah, we're getting real close.
I always check. I have your campaign here. I wish I could do more.
Buy Hero Tales 2 or else Mortals. I don't want to threaten the customers. I don't know. So anyway, I'm going to give here's a bizarre story. Today, talk about fate. I get on the subway. I'm waiting for the A train. I go up the stairs and this A train leaves. So I have to sit, and it's like 12 minutes. So I'm sitting down on the bench. And right next to me, in a wet puddle, is a big manga. It's just I couldn't read it. It was in Japanese, and I'm like, this is a sign, but you don't want to touch anything in the subway, especially when it's wet, because that might not be water on it, ladies and gentlemen. So I did not touch the disgusting wet sloppy.
More than likely.
Yeah. So as much as I wanted to. So there you go. That was my experience.
What manga? I remember with the big manga when I went to college was Akira, of course, when I went in the late 80s. And it was just it was big then. It kind of got squashed by the 90s, of the American comics. And I remember going to the Japanese bookstore with my good friend, and he was looking for like the real Akira that we have to read it backwards, And they had stacks of it. I think that store's still around. And it's always been, we had guys in our class.
Was this in New York? Was this manga store in New York?
New York, not far from Rockefeller Center. Okay. I don't remember it now, but
yeah, there was a manga. There was a manga in Japanese video store place back then in the 90s, ladies and gentlemen. James, you know what I'm talking about? Vintage, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
You go to specialty shops to get this stuff.
So we went. It was a specialty shop because that was where you can get it. Well, you could get anything. We went to Forbidden Planet all the time in St. John's St. Marketplace. Sorry.
Yeah.
And see, for me, the early '90s, I was in Japan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was stationed in Korea and Japan when I was in the Army.
Oh, okay.
So I was there. So that's what I'm saying. When I was there, and I've been going back and forth for the past, almost 30 years. So I was just there 2 years ago.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, for me, manga, when I got into it when I was in the Army. So you were talking about Akira. I picked up Akira, and I've got a box set here. I actually know the guy that did the background, because I post him all the time on Twitter. The background artist for Akira that did all the buildings and the designs for that, which is just jaw dropping. I mean, I would say he's probably the greatest background artist you've ever seen in any aspect ever. I mean, it's comic books, anime, movies, whatever. He does it by hand. It's just unbelievable what he does.
I just got to ask, there's an echo. Does somebody have the YouTube window open at the same time as this? That creates an echo. Benzinger, if you have open at this, you got to close YouTube and just stay in StreamYard. Otherwise, there's an echo.
Oh, my YouTube's not on.
Or maybe it's me then. Okay. Sorry, James. It's just echo. So, Benzinger, I assume you're younger than us because me, Marcus, and James are probably older than most people.
I'm the oldest.
You are correct. I'm 27 years old.
Oh, you're a baby. Oh, he's so cute.
You're the perfect one.
He's so cute. So you grew up with manga. Like I say, I got 55 nieces and nephews, and they all read manga. None of them read comic books. But when I was a kid, it was hard to find manga, especially in a comic book store. What was it, First or Eclipse? I forget which one it was. They brought in like
Eclipse, and then
it was Viz.
Dark Horse and Viz. Viz was the big one.
Yeah, Viz is still the big one here in the United States. They have the U.S. distribution rights to almost 90% of manga.
Yeah, but back then there was Lone Wolf and Cub, My Psychic Girl, Area 88.
Rama
1/2.
Rama, I remember Rama.
Yes.
Rama 1/2 was a big one.
And there was another one that I know that it's going to drive. And then I got Barefoot Gen and Go 13. That was like my experience with manga until.
Well, Frank Miller did the cover, The Lone Wolf and Cub, and that influenced Ronin. Ronin, his first DC limited series, was heavily influenced, as well as maybe not Dark Knight as much, and Sin City definitely was.
Yes, and then you were right. Akira was the big thing. I remember being in college, and somebody had a VHS of Akira, and I remember just, we didn't have time to watch the movie, but we watched that opening scene with that bomb going off.
Yeah.
And we were just blown away. We must have watched that scene over and over again, and then later on we'd come home after partying and put on Akira and have to start it over and over again because we waited too late and we drank too much stuff. So but that was good. And then the second I remember was Ghost in the Shell. And
I remember that.
I didn't particularly like Ghost in the Shell, but I still love Akira.
Yeah, I have anime-wise. I have over 1,000 titles.
Yeah, you got it right over your shoulder right there.
This is the manga.
We can see it right behind you.
Yeah.
Well, this is the manga. I'm talking about. You were talking about anime, which is the movies and the TV series.
I have a son. My son's 20.
I have a
27, and he's into anime. He likes anime an awful lot.
I've got over 1,000 titles. I've been collecting it since I was in the Army.
Right.
So you were talking about Akira. I have Akira on VHS. I have it on Blu-ray. So I've got two versions of it. I also got the manga for Akira, which is actually different than the movie. But the thing is, a lot of the anime that you see, almost 90% of the anime you see, is based on a manga. So the manga comes out first. Like we were talking about Ranma 1/2, Inuyasha. What was another one? Naruto, Bleach, One Punch Man. They're all based on manga.
Right.
So what we're seeing in the United States is stuff that's already been very popular over there. And the way they do manga in Japan is not like we do comic books here. So, and I'm going to, if John will give me some time, I'll explain the differences between the manga and stuff. So, back in the 90s, up until I say about 10 years ago, they put out a magazine it's a little bit bigger than a comic book. They put out a magazine. The main one was called Shogun Jump, and it's still active today.
Yeah, that's the one I heard of. It's like a phone book size thing, right? It's really thick.
And Shogun Jump goes out every week. And what they do is they will get like 8 or 9 different mangas. And they'll put like 6 pages of the story in the book. and they'll set it out for sale. And just to give you an aspect of sales, right now they sell 5 million copies every week.
Right.
Okay? 5 million copies every week. There's nothing in comic books that can compete against that.
No, I read someplace, and I'm sure, James, you could back me up, that one particular issue of Berserk sold more than the entire Western comic book industry.
So there's a couple that did that. So one book came out about 2 years ago. This number one issue, the book was called Ruri Dragon. Okay. It was on Shogun Jump. Then they finally released it. So what they do is, I'm going to use a book real quick. So this is Apostasy Diaries. Okay, this is like one of the top selling mangas right now in the world. This thing is really hot. I collect it myself. But what they do is they'll put them out every week, 5 or 6 things. And once they get about, like this is 175 pages. Once they get about 6 or 7 episodes, they'll put it all into a book and then release the book for sale.
Right.
And the book will sell 10 million copies.
Now, let me ask you this then. So it's a Shonen Jump, just for example. It's an anthology that comes out weekly. How do they know which is popular, which is not popular? Is there a letters page, or is it like?
No, they look at so what they look at is they place material by who's the best and who's the worst. So like when Naruto and Bleach and stuff like that, they'll put those at the front, and then the newer ones will be in the back.
Yeah, but how do they know if it's all selling? Without
Because
like
they look at the secondary merchandise.
So right, but so how? So I think the question is, how do they know? How does the Japanese publishers know, or Viz, which ones to bring over? So we know that they.
In Shonen Jump, like let's just say
so
Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and the Avengers. How do they know that the Fantastic Four is more popular than the Avengers? I'm just making
real simple. Not just in the magazine, but now they have what's known as an online subscription. So you pay $4.95 a month for Shogun Jump, and you get access to all of those. That's in the magazine.
Okay.
And what they do is they publish every day, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. The big one is usually Sunday morning. Sunday morning is a big one. They'll drop like 21 different series, and it does a count of how many people go in there and look, or go in there and read. And you'll see some that'll have count like 10 or 11 million, hits, and others that'll have low hits. Well, the low hits they'll take off to put something in the book.
Okay. So there is a direct set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, that was my question. I'm just giving Vinzinder a chance to talk since he's been so quiet for a while. So Vinzinder, you're a baby at the age of 27 years old, just out of your diapers. What's your feelings on manga versus comics? First off, tell us a little bit about what did you start with first? I assume Western comics since you live in the West.
Yes, although I live in Mexico now. But you're right. I started with comic books, like, for example, a Simpsons comic, a Futurama comic, a Star Wars comic, and a Legion of Superheroes comic.
There you go. And did you grow up in Mexico?
Well, I moved to Mexico when I was 12.
Yeah, because Mexican comics, when I talk with Oscar and Renzo, I talk a lot about Mexico. I'm fascinated about the whole, it's completely different. Like they didn't have comic book stores for the longest time. Like they said that they went to like swap meets and what was the word Oscar used? But it was. But anyway, I digress. So when did you get into manga?
Well, I started out with anime first, then manga. So my first manga was an Ultraman manga.
Oh, that's old school.
But that Ultraman manga was the manga from Netflix.
Okay. If we were to talk about the animes, in the 90s, James and Marcus, you guys probably remember back then it was called Japanimation.
I remember that.
That was in the United States. But
Yeah, in the United States, it was called Japanimation, and they had Star Blazers and Battle of the Planets.
Those Star Blazers and Battle of the Planets came out in the 70s.
Yeah, but they remember Gigantor. Remember Gigantor?
Gigantor came out in the 60s.
Yeah.
So you have, and then, so starting out, you had Star Blazers come over, you had Battle of the Planets come over, and you had the company was called Harmony Gold that did all this. They got a hold of Captain Harlock and the Galaxy Express 999. And what they did was they chopped it up and redid them with American storylines to
Right.
make it for the American audience.
Right. Battle of the Planets, what we saw in America, that robot 7 Zark 7 and
That was not part of it.
yeah, that was a different anime that they
Right. Yeah. And then when you got into the 80s, that's when you got Robotech. That was the big one.
Right.
Where they sliced the 3 series together and like that. And it wasn't until a company called Amigo showed up. And Amigo in the late 80s started doing direct anime release sales in the United States. And their motto was, it's the best movies you'll ever read. Because they did subtitle. They didn't do any English translation whatsoever. Right. They did straight subtitle. And this is where Bubblegum Crisis, You're Under Arrest, 80 Police, I've got them sitting over here in VHS, were released. And same thing with US International, they released others. And then Pioneer got involved. So Pioneer came involved, and they were the ones that released Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z at the beginning in the mid 80s, in the early 90s.
So let's talk a little bit about. Oh, go ahead, Marcus. You have something to say?
Anime in the 90s. Since I had children who watched cartoons, the key is Nickelodeon. I mean, Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network. The Cartoon Network started with all the WB stuff. So of course, watch Bugs Bunny, watch all the other stuff. But then they did have at night. They had Dragon Ball Z. They had all of them. Cowboy Bebop, if they're up late enough.
Right, it's called Toonami.
I have one son who loves the anime, and the other one says anime is the devil's work. So, but they go back and forth, and they were able to watch it. And Vince Zinger will tell us, did he watch it on Cartoon Network?
Did you?
Oh, yes, I remember Cartoon Network very well. I absolutely love it.
That's where I saw it. I used to watch some of it.
Yep, I even remember Toonami.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Toonami.
It's called Toonami. That's right.
Yep. And Toonami started on. It originally started on weekdays from 3 to 5, and then it went to Saturdays from 6 to midnight, and then they went to 9 to 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. But that was the whole setup for Toonami.
I remember, was Voltron considered? Was that an anime or was that American?
Voltron was an anime. And they did the same thing that they did with Robotech. They took 2 different series and put them together. You had the Lion Force, and then you had the vehicles, which are 2 completely different series. And they put them together.
But, and they sold the toys like crazy.
Oh, the toys were
I worked in Heroes World during college at the comic store, and we could not keep Voltron in stock, even Voltron ripoffs.
Voltron and Mattel did Robotech. And then you had the Transformers come out. And you had those 3 sets of toys just could not be kept themselves.
I have coworkers, construction worker guys. They don't watch cartoons anymore. They don't but they still collect Voltron figures. That's how.
See, all the cartoons and so how do people know the X-Men? They watched the cartoons in the 90s,
right?
Spider-Man in the 90s.
The X-Men showed up on cartoons in the 80s,
right?
Well, no, I know that, but. This is the key is the comics aren't, and the anime, the manga aren't always the gateway to reading it. It's the other stuff. Why do so many people say why do you read? I watched in the 60s, they watched the Batman TV show and they saw Batman in a dime store.
You're right.
Or the Adventures of Superman in the 50s. And they go, oh, wow, Superman's in color I can read this. And they're, at the pharmacy or something. So much now. All our superhero stuff is on the movies, and the movies have never driven the comic sales. The TV did, though.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, in the U.S. markets, yes, but in the Japanese,
well, we live here, so yes, I realize that.
It's just completely different. It's the manga first, and then the anime.
Right. Well, that makes sense because
The other thing that got me about manga and how Shogun Jump does their business and how everybody else does their business, which is what really got my attention, was they put out the magazine, they put it online, and they'll wait till they get 10 or 11 chapters. So like I was saying, like with this one here, like with this one here. Okay, they put out, this has got 10 chapters in it. They'll wait 3 months, then they'll release this thing, and it's got, like I said, 200 pages, and it's basically like buying a omnibus type thing, and they'll sell this one here. I know for a fact sold over 6 million copies. And that's what they're doing. So they're not only are they releasing it on the Shogun Jump, which is making 5.5 million copies, but then they're repackaging it like this omnibus, and they're doing another 5 million copies. So in fact, this title, is selling 10 million copies.
Okay, so let's go to the thing. So let's what are comics? We talked about manga, so it's like what we do. It's clobbering time. We always define our terms and everything. So Marcus, I know you know comics.
Comics are the storytelling, and almost everything's a comic. Manga is a comic. It's just not
Correct.
American comic, and it has a separate name, but it's mostly uniquely American creation, much like jazz, and created off of the comic strips, particularly the big Sundays, like the big Sunday strips like Tarzan and
Valiant,
yeah, I'm trying to think of I can't remember now.
Flash Gordon,
Really early, Gertie the dinosaur.
Little
The Yellow Kid, but possibly was the first comic book. So what they did was they took all the popular comic strips in about 1934, 35, and they started packaging them into magazines, reprints, and they'd redo them graphically. They'd re-put them in, and they made comic books. And then Major Nicholas Wheeler decided to start putting original stories into the comics, more fun comics, this all eventually became DC Comics. And it's just a way to sell stories in a static, colorful way, panel to panel, that appealed to children but adults as well, depending on the genre. And it's it has its ups and downs. Everybody thought comics, but so it's emerging the comics into a comic book as opposed to the strip where you get the newspaper every week. The spirit, what they did with the Sunday strip, the spirit, Will Eisner's was contracted to do a comic book within the Sunday comic book. So there were 8-page stories, and you had the Spirit, and you had Lady Luck by Bob Powell, and other things as well. And that lasted till the 50s. And there's always been comics and what they call graphic novels since. But it's a real simple idea. You're telling a story in static pictures, hand drawn by somebody. And usually the illustrators back then were the failed illustrators. All the illustrators wanted to be like Rockwell, but they ended up in comics. In fact, one illustrator, Raymond Kinsler, he ended up being a portrait painter and painted the portraits of 7 presidents, including President Reagan. So they weren't all loser artists.
Well, that was what I was hoping somebody would bring up, is comic books were always lowbrow, aimed at children.
Always.
And then somewhere in the 50s, they got this bad reputation as causing juvenile delinquency and all these problems.
But standards and practices came in.
Right. But manga never had that. Right, James?
Right. The difference between the comic book and the manga is the societies.
Right.
So when manga came out, and I'm going to tell you what I saw in
Japan. What was the first manga then? Since Marcus, do you know what was?
I know the first manga. I'd have to look that up.
I got it. That's going to go way back. I can take a look real quick. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I just assumed you would know. Vincenz, you know, like what is, because like we said, comic books go back to the mid 30s in America. Does manga go back?
The first superhero was literally Superman.
King manga started out as these political comics.
Okay.
But after World War II, they transitioned to something else, thanks to Osamu Tezuka, creator of Astro Boy and Kim of the White Line.
Is he considered like the father of manga?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the Godfather.
You've got manga. We actually have manga before World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, and when you go into modern manga, I'm trying to find out who the guy is, but they're saying it looks like it's going to be a guy named Takanishi.
Yeah, no, that's what I see right here on Grok. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Takanishi who did Shoji Goya.
It's Tezuka by Osamu Satuka in '47.
Yeah, that's going to be the
The
first
name, yeah.
one. So,
Now-
but the thing about the society of manga, and this is what I saw in Japan, and plus what I know of Japan. Manga is read by everybody,
Everybody, yes,
and I'm talking from politicians. I'm talking business owners. I'm talking CEOs, kids. Everybody reads manga. You see it on the train stations. When you get on a train, there are certain trains that you get on that are just completely painted up with manga on them. They got a Hello Kitty train that when you walk inside, it's all Hello Kitty inside the train. They've done the train from Studio Ghibli's the cat train. That's actually
oh, that would be. I would like to see that.
that one's a real train.
So
You have
as far as I know, with manga, is they never had this stigma.
no, there was no stereotype. It was accepted by everybody.
Stigma is that there was no like in America. Like if you read comic books, it was you were either a child or if you were older and read them, you were like mentally deficient or in Japan, everybody, businessmen, like you said, politicians, and the thing about early comics in America anyway. They had all of these different genres. They had romance comics, they had war comics, they had detective cowboys, and somehow down the line, they just turned into superheroes. And I always did think, as much as I love superheroes, I was happy with it, but I always did recognize that there was a problem. Just imagine if you went into the bookstore and sports novels. You know what I mean? So, but manga is everything. Like Chuck Dixon says, he loves one. It's about a grandfather and his kid fishing.
Right. So I'm going to show you three that are really popular that have nothing to do with superheroes.
Shadowpunk doesn't like manga. Okay.
So this is the first one. This one is called My Dress Up Darling.
All right, I'm going to make you big. I'm going to make you big. Here we go.
This one, all it is about a high school girl who likes to cosplay, and she finds a guy who can make her costumes for her. That's all it is, and it's a love story between the two. That's all it is.
Okay. Who would be the target audience for that? Because I know Japan, they also have
this target audience was everybody picked it up.
But really? Okay. I honestly thought you were going to tell me teenage girls.
If you like romance, that's what this is. It's a romance.
Okay.
This is the one I was talking about, Ruri Dragon. This is the one that blew the doors off everything. Okay, this is her right now. It's a girl having to deal with high school problems because her father, she didn't know it, but her father is a dragon, so she's having to adjust with all the stuff that's going on. It's a comedy. It's really fun. And then, of course, Apothecary Diaries. This is more of a detective type book set in ancient China. It's really good. The main thing behind these is it's got, we've always said, great story with great art sells. And all three of these have both that.
Sorry, I just relieved. I got my blessing from Zach Tan. I get really nervous if I'm not blessed.
I'm saying. The other thing I've noticed about manga that a lot of comic book artists have a problem drawing is little children. You go into manga, you can find most of these guys can draw. You can take references from how they draw babies, how they're wrapped up in blankets and stuff. These guys they really can draw kids.
Yeah, it is funny. Okay, Marcus.
I did want to get back to during World War the 40s and during World War II, everybody did read comics. Adults read comics. Soldiers loved comics.
Yes.
And when they all came home in the late 40s and 50s, the comics got more and more adult. You look at those romance covers I'm posting; those are pretty. They're not for young girls,
And the thing is,
to buy those.
You were saying women were drawing those books
full of horror and stuff that the soldiers want. Superheroes were out because they loved the superhero during World War II because they wanted the Ubermensch and the positivity of that. And then they decided, and Frederick Wertham decided, this is really what Batman and Robin for kids. This is not, and that's when the hammer came down. It all happened in the 50s.
Oh yeah.
So it was on its way to explode into all the genres you wanted to.
I honestly think if they wouldn't have done what they did in the 50s, comic books would have been explosive like manga. I really do, because everybody would have accepted it. Everybody would want to read it.
That's a whole good topic, James, to talk about. What if that Frederick Wortham never happened. That's a really good. Let's save that for another show. That's something that could be explored. That is good. Thank you. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea because
We could explore a what if scenario. That
Because
is
the
really
damage that was done in the 50s. I mean, even in the early 90s, with what happened in the early 90s with Image and Marvel and everybody just going gangbusters, that could have been so much bigger if what happened in the 50s wouldn't have happened. And I don't think what we'd have seen in the late 90s would have happened without that.
I want to go through the comments now. We got a whole bunch of people watching, a whole bunch of I didn't mean to ignore everybody, but I didn't want to interrupt everybody either. So I'm just going to go through comments that like have a relevance to them. I grew up watching anime in the 80s. I didn't even know about manga until 1998. That's Kyoji. Akira, everybody seems to love Akira, both the manga. I never read the manga. I just watched the movie.
It's a lot darker than the movie.
I imagine they're always different. I actually watched Batman and Superman movies before I started reading. I think that's I think I watched like the Spider-Man. Spider-Man does
right.
I watched that before I read the comics. I mean, it came out the year.
Spider-Man is Amazing Friends.
Yep, manga is different. The truth is that anime is the gateway to Western audience, not manga. Yes, people watch the cartoons first. It's a ease of entry to watch a movie than to read a novel. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to begin to pronounce these. Is my favorite. What? How do you say it?
Rurouni Kenshin.
There you go. It's a real kitchen. Is my favorite anime of all time, based on Kenshin Hime, a real samurai.
I'll be back in a second.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. I have that anime. I mean, I have that manga, so I know about.
We got Justin Belmont over here, who's got his own comic, Pencils Down. Check that out. We got Grey Wolf in the house over here. What happened? We
That's
lost,
what I was talking about.
Zinder, and then he came back. So
yeah,
we moved it.
That's the one that got chopped.
Yeah, something happened. Harmony Gold chopped up Mark Cross into 3, called it Robotech. Okay, I didn't know that was.
Yeah, what they did, they got 3 different series: Macross, Southern Cross, and then Mesophia, which they broke up. They put all 3 series together to form Robotech.
Movies and television, we could have a whole 6-hour talk about how Marvel and DC are dropping the ball with these movies and not pushing the comics. I first saw the reruns of the 60s Marvel. Yes, the Jack Kirby ones, where Jack Kirby didn't get any royalties, and he got a little pissed about that. I don't blame him. What is manga? It's black and white. Comics are normally in color. James,
Yes,
is that the truth?
That is true, except for recently we've got some books that have come out, like this one. This is Solo Leveling, which is like the big boy right now, especially in anime. This is the #1 anime that's out there. It's in full color.
Oh, okay. So, but traditionally they've been black and white.
Yeah, it's all in black and white. And they do a lot of gray shadows and stuff. And then like on say like episode 100 or something, they're special. They'll do some color, but it's rare.
Okay, Vampire Hunter says Japan have an ancient tradition of drawing stories since the 12th to 13th century, known as Choju Giga, the hand scrolls of frolicking. Yes, there's one of my favorite is there's a series of scrolls, and I'm sure I'm going to misrepresent this, that shows George Washington, and like a Japanese version of George Washington. Like, this is a real thing. Look it up. It is really cool the way they depict George Washington in these.
So the reason that's out there, is what happened with I can't remember the guy's name, but he's the guy that came over to Japan and basically brought at the time the battleship versions and basically threatened to blow up Tokyo or Edo at the time if they didn't open up trade. So they saw the quote unquote gunboat diplomacy. This is where that comes from.
Okay.
It happened with Japan and the United States back in like 1850s or something.
Okay, well let me get through all the comments. Japanese Americans don't understand Japanese culture. Comics and animation reflect American culture. Japanese comics and animation reflect Japanese culture. Yeah, absolutely. The cultural differences. And where'd Vinzender go? I think he's having problems with his
Internet.
Manga does have an edge. That's the only thing it has over real comics. So we know how Shadowpunk feels. Frederick Wortham. I watch Voltron. That's about it. Is this all the comments? I thought there was more. Akira was a game changer. Absolutely.
Oh yeah. When they did that
okay, I
book,
thought there was more comments. That's why I was trying to. Yeah, Vincenzo is having difficulty. He's trying to get back in, but it's not.
And manga influences sneaks its way in to everybody's artwork, regardless.
well, if you look at Majura that did Battle Chasers, and he did some.
Oh, I remember
models and
Battle
stuff.
Chasers,
If you look at his artwork is heavily influenced by manga.
Absolutely.
They
And
used to
same
say
thing
John Burns' artwork was, or
And
early
if you
John
look at
Burns was
Roger
heavy.
Cruz's artwork, his is heavily influenced by manga. You know, you
Okay,
can
so
see-
let's. So I want to talk about American comics for a second. So American comic books, and of course we're talking stereotypical, average. You know, there's outliers and everything. When you say this is blue, and somebody goes, "Well, I know a red one," that drives me crazy. So just understand.
the basic line.
They come out monthly. They're
Correct.
usually superheroes. It's a continuing story. You know, Spider-Man started it in Amazing Fantasy 15, it went to Spider-Man 1, and it's continued. Even though they restart the numbers, it's a continuous, unending story. One of the things that we all understand about Spider-Man is he's never going to die. You know, he might get hurt, he might get replaced, but sooner or later the status quo gets reinstated. So what do they call that? Like a soap opera, a continuing long soap opera. Now, manga, on the other hand, is different. It's a finite story. Things can change. Main characters could die, and then it could end. Now, it could be a 15-year story. It could be, I don't know, a year story. But is this correct in saying that
Well,
has
manga
middle-
usually is going to be one story. It's going to
Correct.
be one long story, depending on how long it is. Case in point, I brought up the one about My Dress Up Darling. They went 18 volumes and stopped it when they got married.
Okay.
And so that just ended like last month. So that's a short one. Then you get something like One Piece that's been going for like 50 years and doesn't look like it's ever
Did you
going to
say
stop.
50 or 15?
50.
Oh, wow.
It's
Now, let me ask you this then.
okay, hold on.
It's going on for
anime.
50 years. Did the characters age?
No, this is like the unending manga of all time. It's anime. The animation is over 1,100 episodes. 1,100 episode cartoon.
Okay. But it's like Spider-Man then. They
It's
25
insane.
years old, 30 years old.
It is insane. It really is. That manga is insane. But most mangas that I've seen, even with Solo Leveling, even with Berserk, One Punch Man, Bleach, they always will have. They've got in their mind where they're going to end it, and you'll see it. In case in point, let's look at Dragon Ball for a minute. Dragon Ball is based on the manga. He does Dragon Ball up to a certain point, and then he'll stop and he'll take a pause for about a year. And he comes back and he'll start up with Dragon Ball Z manga, and he'll run that thing forever. And then he'll, now that he's passed away, they're not doing it anymore. So usually, if a creator dies, they usually will stop. Same thing with Berserk. When he passed away, that issue, that last book that came out, that's the one that just blew the doors off everybody because that was his last work. That was it. There was not going to be any more. It was real sad. We almost had it happen to the creator of Warrior Dragon, but luckily he made a recovery and he's back working on the book. But his book stopped for a whole year.
Hey, Sheldon.
Okay. So again, do they eternally stay in the present? Like I never read Berserk. Does the characters of Berserk age throughout the series?
I didn't see it in Berserk. I did see it in like Bleach. Like Bleach, you see him, and especially Naruto. Naruto is the picture where he starts as a little kid, he goes to an adult, and now his son's now it's going with his son.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. It does. They do age in the books.
Because the only comic that I could think of where the characters, the Fantastic Four, Franklin was born. He quickly went to like, then like now he's like 12, but he's been around for almost 30, 40, 50 years. You know what I mean? So there's American comic book time is wonky. But the only comic that I could think of off the top of my head is Robert Kirkman's The Walking Dead aged in real time and Invincible aged in real time. But so they were finite. He ended them when he was done with the story.
The only comic strip that aged really is Gasoline Alley. And all the comic strips never aged. Steve Canyon was always the same. Tarzan was always the same. Long running with the Peanuts never aged.
Well, the thing about
So Americans are kind of used to that.
the thing about the comic books, though, is like when you were talking about X-Men, you get one story that's 4 or 5 episodes, but it only really takes 6 hours in the whole story. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there's an issue because
But I'm
the
just
issue
saying
is that Reed Richards
you really
and
can't do it.
Ben Grimm were World War II vets most of their lives, and then they became Vietnam vets, and then they became an unnamed war vet because the time kept growing. The
Mhm.
John Byrne rule was always go back 7 years. And that's why the comics stopped putting presidents
Right.
in the comic. There's that famous one that ages the Superman with John F. Kennedy in 1963, I think. And then
Yeah.
you see Lyndon Johnson in Hulk, Tales to Astonish, but he's not named. But it's always that they never really show the president. They put him in shadows.
Well, I mean, they have
They
Reed
don't wanna
Richards
take
and
the
Ben
book.
Grimm as World War II, war
Yeah,
fighters.
they'd be 95 years old.
Tony Stark was in Vietnam, became Iron Man. So yeah. So Vincenzo, you've been having some difficulty. Do you want to say anything while you're here? That we've been.
Yeah, so sorry for the
That's
technical
okay. You gotta do what you
difficulties.
gotta do.
You could say Mexico may not have the best resources nor infrastructure.
But they got the best people. How's that? They got the best people over there.
Did we just lose him again?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends who's the best people and who are the worst people.
May I ask where in Mexico? Are you near Mexico City?
No, I'm in a place that you guys never heard of called Yahualica, Jalisco. It's a small town that's
Yeah, I
close to
never heard of
Guadalajara.
Yep. I've never heard of it. So, what would be your first actual reading of manga that you experienced?
Probably just Ultraman.
Okay, now I got to ask you this:
Okay.
since you live in Mexico, did you read it in English or did you read it in Spanish or
I
Japanese?
read it in Spanish since I got it in a comic book store in Tepatitlán that is also close to Guadalajara, but it's also close to Yahualica, Jalisco.
So that's interesting. So manga. I mean, obviously it's translated into English, but it's also translated into Spanish. Now, James and Vincenzo, I know Marcus and myself aren't the manga guys. When you buy manga in America, do you read it American style or do you read it?
It's just like the Japanese style. You read it
Japanese style.
right to left. Just to the left.
Really? So it's, to our way of thinking, it's backwards.
Yeah.
Was
Well,
that
to be
difficult?
honest with you, I'm not
sorry.
surprised it was backwards, man. I don't know, maybe because I watched a lot of anime tokusatsu.
Oh, here's another. Most manga are drawn by the same. Yes. Okay, that's another huge point.
But
Yeah.
James and Vincenzo, do you agree with that? Is
Yeah.
One Piece still the same people?
But yes, it's the
But
same
yeah.
people. They do
Doesn't
not
it work
change.
People.
my understanding is that the creator creates it, and then he's in charge of some of it. But most of the backgrounds and this the grunt work is all done by these guys in the Mankata.
Well,
Reading
okay,
references
so-
that often, and they're really doing a lot of the work to put these out so fast. Weekly book,
well, okay, in the manga, and I'll use the one I know for a fact. Black Clover is drawn by the creator and written by the creator. He does everything. So
But does he put it out weekly?
Yeah, no, he doesn't. Not now, but when he first started out, he was putting it out weekly.
Right.
But now he's taking breaks, so it's slowing down. It's fixing to come to an end.
But my understanding, they have a team of
Most of-
assistants that they
But
work
most
with.
of the mangas, when they first start out, is done by 1 or 2 people. When they first start out, because they don't have any money to pay anybody when they first start out.
Right. No, well, yeah.
They gotta pay their dues.
They send their creation into like Shogun Jump, and if Shogun Jump picks it up, then they start getting money from Shogun Jump. But usually, what happens is they're broke until they get a gig. So it's usually like 2 best friends doing it or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And once they get really rolling, they may bring in a third person. But usually, it's because it's their baby, and they have control of it. They're going to do it. Same thing with Bleach, Solo Leveling. So now Solo Leveling was a two man team. My Jessup Darling was a 1 person.
Okay, we'll get into the weeds with that. Now,
Do you taking notes, John, how to get your comic out? Just hire
Yeah.
a bunch of grunts to work on it
there you
after
go.
you tell them what to do.
Matt's got an interesting question. Matt Barr, ladies and gentlemen, says, "What? I can't like both. If I got a choice, it's American. You can like whatever you like.
can like
Hey, I like both. I do. I collect both of them. So go for it, man.
I'm not, I'm just not familiar with anime that much. But I got culture. I was going to bring this up later, but I got cultural biases that I'm trying to overcome. But you can like what you like, man. It's like saying I can't like hamburgers and hot dogs. Like what you like. If you're a slob like me, you like hamburgers and hot dogs, with baked beans and bacon on both of them. There you go.
I mean, I was watching the latest episodes today of manga, so I mean they put them out almost daily. So
I can't even pronounce this Doro Hedro.
Oh, I know that one. Yes, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. That's a good one.
So here's I want to talk about. So I would just imagine James how do you say your name? Vinzinger. Have you been to Japan?
No.
Okay. All right. So James, so by default you're the expert on Japan right here.
Yeah,
So,
I've got at least 7 years experience in Japan. So yeah, I will say this about Japan. Japan is 10 years ahead of us technology-wise. And I was just there 2 years ago. Everything is much more modern than what we have here in the States. But I'll also say this. Manga is, and I mean this, everywhere. Even on, like if they're doing construction, this is the one that got me. They're doing construction. They've got it barricaded off. The barricades are anime characters apologizing to you for blocking off the street.
right. Yeah.
I'm not making this up.
I wanted to ask you. Now I lost my train of thought. Okay, when you're in Japan, and let's just say the average Japanese kid picks up an American style comic, do they think of it as it's all the same style? Because my biggest barrier to entry with anime was it always looked the same. It was always people with big eyes. It was kind of goofy looking, and to me, it was alien looking. I didn't like the anime. I didn't like the art style, so I just dismissed all of it for the longest time. And that's on me. I'm admitting my bias.
So if you give me a second, I'll go get my Japanese Spawn #1 that was released in Japan. I'll go get it. I'll show you the difference between the American version and the Japanese version.
Okay.
Both of them are imaged, everything like that. I'll be right back.
So let me ask the people in the chat. Wow, we got 80 people watching. Hello, everybody. Thank you. Now, for those of you who, if you do not like anime, okay, so those of you who do not like anime, put in the chat, why don't you like it? For me, the biggest problem was, and maybe it was bad translations, or maybe it was that they spliced it for cartoons or whatever, but it was always something really cool, and then they cut to like a goofy sidekick or, and it just seemed like
that Speed Racer, like the monkey.
Yeah, and it pulled me out of it. Like even American comics when they had like that Batmite, or it's the only goofy sidekick character that I actually liked was the Impossible Man, but they didn't really use him too much.
They didn't use him a whole lot because Stan didn't like the Impossible Man that much.
Right. So I always hated that. Like the had like that Cleop and Battle of the Planets and everything like that. So I always thought that I don't know, like the Japanese culture.
I like the covers, and I had some of Akira, but it never really drew me in. But there are cool things that show up in the art, like with the speed lines. That's in everybody's artwork now, and the influence is undeniable. Whether it's because of Madureira or any of the other artists that worked on American comics, there's always something. Like I did this last week, a couple weeks ago, and this was based on a manga sketch I saw. And it worked out for me fine. So that's how I see it.
I'll say Kyojo. I don't like most American cartoons either. Because
the closest thing that I read was Rini Strakowski.
I've seen Japanese news shows how manga companies are hiring artists from other countries to get new blood. Oh, okay. Because
Sheldon should come in. He knows. I'm interested in all that artwork stuff.
Okay.
He's a good inker too. Sheldon's a fantastic.
I'm back, so I'm going to show you the Japanese version of Spawn #1. Okay, this is the Japanese version. If you make me big, I'll show it to you. Okay, this is what it looks like.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I like that.
This is the Japanese. and you do open it just like you do in America. Got a thing with Todd McFarlane
Hey, Todd.
that you can. It's his, you know. And when you go in, it's just like the American one. It's just they just re-lettered it in Japanese.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Rainey just did a Japanese translation to Fiendish One, I think.
But
she's
the
in
difference,
Osaka.
but the difference is,
At the Osaka con.
yeah, but it's just got a different packaging to it. The covers are much thicker. If you look, the cover is extremely thick. It's actually got a dust cover on it. Plus, it's got this, so they actually spruce them up.
Okay. So I want to get back to the differences between comics and manga.
So I have a question about one second, John. I'm sorry.
Okay,
What? I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just, I'm trying to, anyway. So I think that John's question, and I interpret it, isn't just do they have it? Do they pick up the American comics and go, ooh, this is an American comic?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
There's a cute guy in
It
the
all
middle
looks
of
the
it.
same.
It goes like this. Woo!
The
know,
problem
that's,
is
I think, your question was.
finding
Am I
American
right?
comics in Japan.
So
Okay, that's the problem. American comics is, you really got to look for American comics in Japan. They're just not out there.
they're not out there. All right. Well, that's it. That's
what
an
I'm saying.
answer.
It's not like the manga is out there. American comics, they're not. You can find them, but they're going to be in like the bookstores. They're not going to be at the 7-Elevens. They're not going to be at the 100 yen shop.
I see. Yeah.
You walk into a 7-Eleven, and the 7-Elevens are different. Again, 7-Elevens are different than the ones that
Yeah, 7-Elevens are a big deal in Japan. I know that.
And 7-Elevens do not sell gas. And believe me or not, they don't. So when you walk into 7-Eleven, they've got at least one complete row of nothing but manga. One complete row of nothing but manga. And everybody hits the manga shelves. And then you got the bentos in the back.
Okay, so I want to get back to more differences between manga and anime. So again, I talked about how American style comics are continual, and they're almost continually the present. And like it or not, for the most part, they as Chuck Dixon says, they have the illusion of change. Batman is going to quit being Batman. He's going to get a girlfriend, but he always goes back to being Batman. Peter Parker. The only real big difference between Spider-Man is he graduated high school, then he went to college, and then later on he got married, and then we all know what happened with that. But sooner or later, comic books, American-style comic books, always seem to revert back to the status quo. Now, Vincenzo and James could pontificate on the Japanese manga. They evolve, they change, and
they never say the years. They use fictitious time periods. This is where manga is different than American. They use fictitious time periods. They actually use fictitious countries, fictitious worlds.
Right.
They don't keep them locked. Like now, Solo Leveling is set in Korea, but they don't say who the president is. They don't say any of that stuff. They give that, yes, he's grown up. Yes, he gets older. Yes, he gets this. But they never tell you what year it's in.
Yeah,
it's always
most part. American comics don't usually tell you the years either for the same, I guess, similar reasons.
Well, what I'm saying is they never start out. They never say what year it is.
Right. But another big difference between manga and I forgot what I said. A manga and American style comics is American style comics are collectible, and each issue is numbered. Now in Japan, if I wanted to get to Naruto, is there the collectible? I'm just making up a manga. Naruto #1. Is there a collectible one that I want, like the first edition? When I get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I want the first printing of the first Teenage Ninja Turtles.
If you remember when Spawn came out, everybody went and bought it thinking it was going to go nuts.
Yeah.
There's so many copies of Naruto out there.
Yeah.
It's not. There's not. As far as I know, there's nothing really manga-wise that's selling worth $1 billion. None of it is because everybody bought it. You can go today and still get Ranma 1/2. You can go get Inuyasha today. You can still buy it on the streets in Japan. The thing about it is there's so many copies of every manga.
Yes, scarcity makes it collectible. I got that. Okay.
There's no collectible. They just toss them out. Is it collectible at all? Do kids sit there and put them in a plastic bag? Any of them. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. Do you
Could be
keep
any-
those Shogun Jump magazines, in mint condition?
Well, I don't have any Shogun Jump magazines. I think I've got one.
I'm talking about the average Japanese kid. Like,
No, they
they're
don't.
into
They do
manga-
it just like we did back in the 70s. They scroll them up and put them in a backpack, put them in a back pocket, whatever. It's when they come out with this. When they get these, when they come out to these, they usually get these. They'll read them and they put them in the bookshelves and stuff like that because they're really books. I mean, they're like omnibuses. So they put them up. They put them up in on the shelves and stuff like that, and they just have all of them sitting there. So, it'll take, I don't know, like I said, I really don't know if trying to find an issue 1 of Dragon Ball or something like that. It might be, but they keep printing them. So it's not thing. And the thing about it is, and I'll explain, if they don't change the number on the inside of the book, it's still a first printing. But it was printed in 1960 or 1990. It's still a first printing.
Okay.
The only thing that changes is if they go inside and print and have a max print run.
Now, another thing that I know that are different is, and again, I'm just going to say Dragon Ball Z. I don't know if it's true or not, but the volumes continue by number. And
Correct.
if you wanted to get
Mhm.
into Dragon Ball Z, you could just pick up issue number 1. Like X-Men right now. Geez, can you imagine getting into the X-Men right now?
No, I could not.
It is
Well,
so-
the thing about manga is you can pick up any volume of manga and go. You don't have to have issue 1 through 25.
Oh, okay. I was under the assumption that if I just jumped into the 13th volume of Dragon Ball
No,
Z,
you
I would
can
be
jump
lost.
into it. You can jump into any manga anywhere you want. It's set. I mean, there's a story going on, but when you get into it, you can figure it out really quick as you're reading forward. You don't have to go back and hunt them. Now, when I buy mangas, if I find one, say I find Solo Leveling number 5, I'll go get number 1, 2, 3, and 4, just so I can have them in my collection, so I can read them all to line it up and get everything. But you don't need to do that.
Okay. All right. So, Vincenzo, when you started getting into manga, did you like track down the first volumes, or did you just buy whatever was available to you? And if so, as a corollary, were you confused? I think Vincenzo's having difficulty with his connection again. So anybody in the chat, again, if anybody wants to pop in and talk manga with us, because Marcus and I can talk comics until we're blue in the face, till there's no more oxygen left in the room. But I also have to address, we got a $5 super chat, Zaid Comics over here. You guys, I love the public eye character. Thank you. Great work.
Thank you, Phil.
I want to
really
know.
appreciate that, Phil. It's a lot coming from
Now,
you. I
I
really
will say, I will say this to you, John.
The super chat. Come on, man.
Oh, go ahead. Please.
I love the public eye character. So first off, you super chatted $5. So if you send me your address, I made these cards, the Memphis King Fighting Society cards. They're linen finished cards, autographed by King Fu himself. If you want one, somehow get your address to me, and I'll put this in an envelope and mail it to you. I'm trying to promote super chats, trying to make it like a club, things like that. So there you go. I made up a bunch of these. They ain't cheap. So $5 super chat or $5 PayPal, whatever you want to do. Second off, Marcus and I were talking about the public eye. We have a lot of plans for him. How I'm going to release him into my schedule, given that I'm a small comic book publisher and everything's expensive and everything like that. I don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but I'm really excited. Marcus seems to be like telepathically linked to me about as far as everything.
Same wavelength about it.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
All the old style is my alley anyway. I struggle with the modern style. I think James knows, right, James?
Oh yeah.
I was saying to Jake, like when I thought of this character is from my role-playing game. Again, I keep this over here to show. This was actually my character that I made up. My friend Jimmy was running the game, and he was my homage to the question to Rorschach, to Mr. A.
What really solidified him for me was when you said about his mask. Once I drew it on the mask, and then I made that plain sketch, and then I started doing the eyes, like how detailed was that going to be? Then I say, whoa, he looks pretty cool. Like, because the rest of it, he has his hat and all.
Yeah,
and his jacket,
So there's Marcus, I don't want to because it's supposed to be mysteries and conspiracies, stuff like that. So we're working on this. Marcus has a 6-page introductory story, and then I just a 2-page, just a little fun story.
I got to print all that out now that I'm home.
Then we'll see what's going to happen. Maybe I'll make it as a stretch goal in Patriarch #1. Maybe I'll make it its own thing. But we have 8 pages of the public eye. But anyway, let's get back to the sketch. Zaid, if you DM me your address, I'll mail you one of these. Or if this is I feel bad when people super chat. I'm not a cam girl. You know what I mean? I'm not. So I want to give you something for your money. So Memphis King Fighting Society, King Fu will be a big deal in Heroic Tales #3. And oh my God, do I have a story for King Fu?
You've got too many use. How do you do that? I'm looking at it still. It's just like you have so many characters. You must have a story for every one of them.
Oh, I do. And
there's a million of them.
And Marcus can tell you.
Wow, public eye is cool. Wow.
I gave Marcus like a 10-page essay about.
You guys don't know. It's like a new in the DM. It's a new idea every 5 minutes if he's on a roll. I'm like, okay, all right. I'm thinking about this. Okay, now I'm thinking about here's a girlfriend, and his eye will do this.
And I already have a guy making logos and
he did a terrific job. When I see him in the chat, I have to say something.
But anyway, let's get back to this. James is chomping at the bit to say something. What do you want to say, James?
So I'm going to recommend to you, John, a manga that I think you'll enjoy because the creator of the manga did it as an homage to Western superheroes.
Oh, nice.
Okay. So it is a superhero comic, a manga. It is really good. I would recommend starting it at #1.
Is it My Hero Academia?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, everybody tells me to read that one. And
yes, I've actually got it.
I am very interested.
It is such an homage to Western superheroes. You'll love it.
Yeah, somebody told me that leave it to the Japanese to tell the best American superhero story.
Right now, I would say yes. This is probably in the last 10 years the best superhero story that's been told.
Zaid Comics. Just to get back, the People versus the Public sounds really cool. Maybe one day. Yes, Zaid Comics has a character. By the way, I just got all of his. They're in this stack that's going to tip over if I touch it, so I won't touch it. Looks awesome. He has a character called the People that is like a street level. And I have to say, Zaid, when you introduced the People, it was the first time I got jealous that I didn't think of it first. It is such a great concept for a street vigilante. I love it. To be honest, I think the People would probably get along better. Well, you know what? The Public Eye, maybe the Raven. And I do have a Public Eye fight the Raven story working in my noggin here.
But boy, the Raven's a lot bigger than I don't see the Public Eye as a big guy,
But the Public Eye is tricky. And again,
he's gonna do the Kirby Crackers, which is easier than the Ditko stuff, so I'm happy about that.
So check out the Steins. I gotta read James's novel. Now I'm getting excited. The coffee's kicking in. You can get first print manga from Japanese used bookstores, but the printing number doesn't change the price. Most manga get thrown away or recycled. Okay,
that's what we were kind of asking, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it does. Yeah.
And Forever versus Ongoing Stories with an End. Yes, I remember. James Marcus Vincenzo. What was the first limited series? In my mind,
Hawkeye.
it was
Hawkeye.
It was Hawkeye. Okay.
Hawkeye. Mark Grunwald wrote and Joe Rumstein. I remember that being the first limited series.
Right. Because
I remember it was a movie. They did a limited series, a movie before that, but the first superhero was definitely Hawkeye.
They did Hawkeye and Iceman and Nightcrawler all came out around the same time.
I like that Iceman.
And they did a limited series of Kitty Pryde and Wolverine.
Right. That was like a year or two later. But
that was the big one, yeah.
I was Hawkeye. I'll listen if Marcus says that's the first one.
I always double check. By the way, I think I know everything. I do double check my work often before I post it. So.
I got a silly brain, so I trust you. But
I appreciate that.
I remember when that comic came out. I don't adapt to change very well. And I was like when I was irrationally angry at the idea that it was a limited series. And now, like, I kind of like a limited series of like the Watchmen. That was basically Alan Moore's own characters. He could kill them. He could do whatever he wants. Now I kind of look forward to that. I get excited about that. So I could see the appeal of manga, but like a 50-year running manga to me is the same as Spider-Man.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, but the thing about it is there is always a difference between the two. But most mangas have a beginning and an end, and they usually have where they know what they're going to be doing. And and the thing about the manga is they've got some really, really quality women in manga. One of the greatest women is the woman who did Roman One Half, Inuyasha, and some other titles. She is known as she's known as the grandmother of all manga. I mean, she is way up there on the list. I mean, she is just unbelievable. Because she's made millions of dollars. She's got anime. Her books have been made into animes and everything. So I mean, she's.
So another thing I want to talk about again. Things are changing now, especially the indie scenes. Like you could get fantasy comics, you could get barbarian comics, detective comics, but for the most part, it's kind of fair to say that since 1970, American comics have been superhero centric. I don't think anybody's going to really argue with me. But manga, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's fantasy, and me being a newbie to manga, is My Hero Academia the first American style superhero manga?
No.
No, I don't think so. But but you can tell it's an homage to Western comics.
Okay.
Because he's even said that. So that he was a big fan of Western superhero comics, and so he made his manga, into the superhero type.
And I know that there was manga. There was a manga Spider-Man back in the 80s.
Yeah, but they had an agreement with Marvel.
Right. And there's also a manga Supernatural. My wife used to love that show, Supernatural, and it's funny that they didn't bring it back into America. You think
there's a lot of stuff that they had in Japan that they brought over here and redid it as American movies. So like The Ring, some other stuff.
Okay.
All that came from Japan. But in its own, but like I said, it's got its own niche. Like right now, the biggest niche they've got going right now is what's called isekai. And isekai, and I'm actually writing. That's what my novel is an isekai because I love them so much. But isekai is somebody accidentally gets killed, and they get reborn in another world, and you basically have a blank sheet to do whatever you want, and you start from scratch. I mean, you have total control over everything. You can put them in a nightmare. You can put them in a fantasy world. You can put them in a sci-fi world. You can put them in any type of world you want. You can give them any powers you want and do whatever you want. And that's what now going on in Japan, which is very popular right now, even here in the States.
Yeah. I hit the wrong button. I didn't mean to.
I want to fix my.
It's okay.
Marvel's Contest of Champions was their first limited series.
Yes, okay, all right. I did.
Champions, and then it's Wolverine.
I believed you, and I doubted myself, and I was right for the first time.
I said Hawkeye because they said it at the time in the comic. It was Contest of Champions, Wolverine, Vision, Scarlet Witch. That one where they were
12 issues.
Yeah, and then the 4-issue one with Rick Leonardi.
Oh, that's right. There was a 4-issue
and then
one.
The Hercules. The first Bob Layton Hercules.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but Contest of it was 3 issues. Yeah, that was.
I forgot. Yeah, I remember. I love that. That's where they got the idea for Secret Wars was Contest of Champions.
Yes, that's right. It's funny because I doubted you, but then I said, you know what, I'm going to trust.
It wasn't right. No, It came out.
That's what I get for trusting you, Marcus. When I trust you, I get wrong information. Thanks.
I do check. Most of the time, I check. So that's why I checked after the fact this time.
Oh wow!
This.
The Wizard of Oz is the first American isekai story.
No, wrong. It's not.
Uh-oh.
A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court's the first one.
Oh, okay. Yes, I love that's a good story.
The Connecticut Yankee is the first one, and then comes John Carter of Mars, written by the same guy that wrote Tarzan. John Carter of Mars is actually from 1890.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So the idea of dying or whatever in one world, waking up another, that's isekai. Am I saying it correctly?
Yes, but it actually started here in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Actually, it's pronounced
Mark Twain's
isekai.
house.
Isekai?
Yeah, it's called isekai.
Yeah, forgive my pronunciation, guys. I'm
It's
going
okay.
to
It's okay.
barely pronounce English.
I did get married in Mark Twain's home in Tarrytown, New York.
You got married to Mark Twain?
Well, no, in his house though. It was cool. It's like a castle.
There was another. Keep talking, guys, because I had a question that I got excited and I forgot now because that's the way I am.
Oh, I have something for Logic's finest. Make me big. This is for Logic's finest.
Make me big.
Let's see if they can. Can he see that?
Oh, is that Power Girl?
Nice, very nice.
Power Girl.
Nice.
Power Girl, nice.
I forgot I had this sketch. I never finished it.
Power Girl. She looks like Diana Shore, kind of in the.
Dude,
Yeah, her hair looks like it. Yeah.
I'll actually say this on record. When I heard that James Gunn was going to do Supergirl, I actually sent him a message telling him not to and to do a Power Girl movie instead.
Sydney
Yeah,
Sweeney.
well, they don't want to do a Power Girl movie.
Sydney Sweeney is Power Girl. Just take my money now.
That's
you don't even need a
exactly
script.
what I wrote. That's exactly what I said. Mm-hmm. Oh, come on, man! Her in that white outfit. Oh man,
you don't even need a script.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But at least they cast the right girl for Supergirl. I'll say that.
So anyway, the right girl for Super, she should be more wholesome. There's a girl that I thought, but now I can't remember her name.
Well,
but
it's the young girl out of House of Dragon. That's who's playing.
Oh, okay, she'd be good. She'd be good.
The young version of
my chin now. I'm bleeding. I'm bleeding to death live on.
Yeah, she's playing Supergirl.
So a mangakata, is that the name of the person who creates and draws it, or like the guy?
Actually, it's pronounced mangaka.
Mangaka. Say it again, please.
Mangaka.
Mangaka. Okay. So does the mangaka creator, do they have exclusive control over their stories?
Yes.
So the One Punch Man guy, does he control One Punch Man? Okay.
Yes, they do control it.
Okay.
So, just like he was bringing up, like you brought up One Punch Man. One Punch Man is basically it's a superhero movie.
Yeah, that's
a series, but it takes it to the extreme of what happens if you have this Omni character who's just overpowered and he.
Right, I know the premise. People keep telling me about it because it's superhero related.
It's great. I have all of them sitting right over there on the shelf.
Now here's one of the things that I don't like. I'm not a big fan of the typical manga art. It seems like it's like the Japanese house style. Like, yeah, and it's fair to say Marvel had a house style in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, but it seems like a whole nation. To me, I don't spend enough time, and I know I'm wrong. Before I get the angry comments, I know I'm wrong. But when I look at manga, One Punch Man, whatever, it looks like it could be by the same 5 people.
I'm going to explain why it's like that.
Okay, that was what I was leading to.
So when you ever watch Japanese animation, you ever watch manga or whatever you do, you'll notice that they're always European looking with blonde hair, blue eye, blonde hair, red hair, and like that.
They're Nazis.
They do that as an honor and an homage to Walt Disney.
Oh, really?
And the reason is because when Snow White came out, it got released in Japan. And all these people that do figures saw that cartoon. And they were like, oh, they were blown away. It's, if you look at back in when it came out in, I think, 38, it blew everybody away. It really did. And so the Japanese decided they were going to try to emulate that. And they did it as an honor and respect to Walt Disney. That's why anime is done the way it is now. If you go look, I'll give you an anime to really go look at. You want to see what happens when Disney animators and Japanese animators get together. Go see the anime Bell.
Bell? B-E-L-L?
B-E-L-L-E.
Okay.
Yeah, like that. Okay. Yeah.
So what happened in that cartoon was a lot of the Japanese animators who were working for Disney quit and went home to Japan. Well, the studio that was doing Bell hired them all to come on to do part of the movie. So you can see the difference in the animation in the movie. It flows really well. It works really good,
Wow.
but you can see what they did and why they did it. It's the same thing as some of the animators went to China and worked at Bimbi, because now the Chinese animation is getting so much better and it's gotten really good.
Okay.
So that's what's happened. A lot of the Disney animators have gone back over to Asia.
I don't know how this happened. I don't know why, but I saw the advertisements for Spirited Away, and something about that made me want to go see that in the movie theater. So I that was the first time I saw a Studio Ghibli. Is that how you say it? Studio Ghibli film. And I was blown away, and I absolutely loved it. But I watched that movie, and I'm like, this is so foreign. But I was utterly charmed by that movie, and I bought the DVD. I watched it every once in a while, and I went back and I watched all the. But to me, I don't see that art style of the manga. Like,
right, he's more of a traditionalist.
Okay,
and he's a very old school animator, and that's just the way he does things. He's not like stuff like that, but he's really good at what he does. And you're talking about, and I love Princess Mononoke. I love Spirited Away. I love House of Flying Dragon. I love those. The thing is some of his movies has a real overtone to them, and he has one. I think it's the House of Fireflies, where he places it in World War II in Japan.
Yeah, the House of the Grave of the Fireflies is the feel good movie. Everybody go watch this with your family. Get some popcorn. You're gonna come out. It's so.
Those movies are, like I said, those movies. That's what he does. Other movies that are out. I'll give you one right now. That's out. Overlord. It's a movie. It's now a Crunchyroll, but I saw that in the theater and I was like, oh, this looks really good. There's some great stuff that Japanese animators do. Another one's called Redline. Redline is fantastic. But now you're seeing like James Cameron. He went and got the rights to Captain Harlock, and he made a computer-generated animated movie of Captain Harlock, which is out and it's good too. But you're starting to see more of a mixture of the animation crossover. And what I didn't know about, and this is really good, but one of the animators from the Disney original group, the original 12, was a Japanese person that helped at the beginning with Snow White and everything. So I didn't know that.
So back to my here comes Butterscotch. What is Butterscotch like? American comics or manga?
Anyone that he can bother me. Well,
so my continuing my journey for before my wife, one of my last girlfriends, she had two little girls, and they were watching Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I just watched it to be polite because that's what the kids were watching. I
like watching Avatar: The Last.
And I gotta say, I was blown away by that. And
that's a great cartoon. Yeah.
So I was telling people, I'm watching this anime called Avatar: The Last Airbender, and people ridiculed me. That's not anime. That's not anime.
It's made here in the States.
Right. So here's my question: can you make manga in the United States? Does it have to come from Japan?
That's a good question.
Well, this is the way I put it.
I guess so.
I'm sorry, Vincenter?
I guess so, and I remember following this account called Enter Dos Mundos, and it's basically a Latino manga. It might probably be from the US.
What was the name of it? You cut out.
Enter Dos Mundos, which is Spanish for Between Two Worlds.
Okay, and it's a Mexican anime. That is
actually, it's a manga that uses a lot of Latino cultures like Mexican, Puerto Rican.
Oh, wow.
And much more.
Jose Garcia.
Where is it made?
Jose Garcia.
I guess in the US, but the adaptation for it is produced by Jorge Gutierrez.
Oh, okay. So, because I remember, because Avatar: The Last Airbender was made by two Americans, if I remember correctly, but then it was made in Korea, like the animation. Yeah,
Don't
Luke.
they call it American manga at that point instead of
So-
just they
so-
make the
Did,
differentiation?
did anybody else get Jose Garcia's
Oh
Luminary?
yeah,
Light?
I love Jose. He did the variant cover for Heroic
Okay.
Tales. You know,
Jose
Yeah,
stuff.
you want Jose Garcia get the
Jose
variant cover.
Garcia's stuff, I would classify as manga. His
Interesting.
majority of his artwork is just like manga. So like, and you know he's an animator. So yes, I would say this. I would classify this as manga, not comics, because it is so good. It is extremely good.
what is the word? I know that there's a word for European style comics, and it's escaping me. Does anybody know?
I don't know, but I know some good. There's some good stuff that came out of there.
Because I will say that the European style comics, you know, they're a lot different than the American style comics, and then which is also a lot different than Japanese style comics. And I'm not ignorant enough. Japanese comics are comics. We just call them manga. So, like,
Ow.
like I would, like I said, a lot of guys were like jumping down Avatar: The Last Airbender is not anime. They told me a Korean term for anime, and that's gonna drive me crazy until I remember it now.
I'm gonna tell you an anime that you're gonna go. It's not, but it is. Thundercats.
Thundercats, you'd say was anime?
The original Thundercats was all made in Japan.
That was
All
created
the
by
animation and
Leonard
everything. So if you want to go look at it, Thundercats is an anime.
Thundercats wasn't created in Japan. It was created in
No,
America.
it was created by Wolf, but it was done.
It was
Artwork
they
was
sent the
published
work to Japan. It was created by Leonard Starr,
And
the
Wolf,
comic strip artist.
yeah, and Wolf. I've seen the original pencils and stuff for it. It's really good. Man, the pencils are great. They should have done the comic book like that, and they didn't do it.
Yeah. So like I don't know. I did.
The way I put it like this: if you're going to do a manga, and you're in the United States, and you send it to Shogun Jump when they do their talent search, and they pick it up, it's a manga.
All right.
That's simple. That's easy. It
So
doesn't matter.
manga doesn't have to be. So James, you say that manga doesn't have to be, you know, according to Hoyle, from Japan. You could make, so manga is a style, not
It's a
Okay, so
style.
then
like the French. The French say that champagne has to come from the Champagne region of France in order.
that's true. That's right. They do say that.
Like you can't make champagne in America. It's just beyond.
No.
It's,
I don't see
Sparkling
any
wine.
reason why you cannot make a successful manga in the United States and have
Okay.
it in Japan.
okay, yeah, like you know, in Japan, obviously they could make an American style comic. You know, I don't see why they
You
couldn't.
know, I mean, you got artists in the Philippines and you got artists in South America drawing American comics. So yeah, they can do it. It
Does
just
anybody know the name of the Korean anime or manga? There's a Korean word for it. It's just driving me crazy.
Well, one of the big Japanese artists that does comics and he does covers for Marvel is Nakayama.
Yep.
So what do you,
Sorry. Continue, James.
No, I'm just saying that, you know,
That's the word. Thank you, KO Joe. It's driving me crazy. Yeah.
Empire Hunters, right? It all goes over to Japan to do the basic animation after it be designed here. Even Batman the Animated Series, they had the artists here design it, but it would all go over there. It's a lot less expensive to produce.
Haldir says manga, and I'm not going to pronounce this word, but manga uses a different story structure called whatever.
Kishoten Hetsu.
Could you explain that, Vin? Could you
Yeah,
tell?
that's a good question. It's a writing technique that the Japanese uses for character development. Like, I'm going to be real for you. It's a very good way to create for character development.
But what is it? And what makes it different than, say, American style storytelling? Other
That's a
than
good question. It's best. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I can recommend. I can send you a link to what Kisho Kentetsu is in DMs if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I'm always trying to learn stuff.
The way I look at manga, and this is from me reading it, is there's so much more in-depth storytelling than there is in comics. And I mean, there is some extremely in-depth things going on in manga. And when you realize just how in-depth stuff was, you're sitting there going like, how long did it take to put this together? And some of it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, well, if you have one creator, one vision, telling a story for 12 to 50 years, I can only imagine how deep these stories can get. Whereas American comics, my biggest pet peeve now is we don't have runs anymore. They just canceled that X-Men after 5 issues. It's like they didn't give it time to breathe. You know what I mean?
Right now, what they're looking at is sales, because they've got to start looking now at making profit because of what happened with the USAID.
This comment, Sheldon over here. In other countries, they make rap and country music and play baseball. Manga could be made in any country. I remember there was
I've been to the baseball game.
This is the 80s. There was a Spanish rapper whose name I will not remember, and they showed him on MTV, and they had the old school Run DMCs and KRS-One guy making fun of it, saying you can't make rap unless it's Black American. And the funny thing is, I remember there was a Japanese country music guy who got big in Japan and started to come to America, and the country music fans turned their back on him, saying you can't make country music outside of the States. And at the same time, Shania Twain was touring, and I used to say, but she's not American. And people are like, what are you talking about? She's Canadian, you know, which is like Americans, but different and inferior. I'm my wife is up there. But anyway, I got to address the super chat there. RRTNZ dropping by. He's using Shire money. Dropping by. Can't stay. Sorry, casting a vote for comics. Yeah, well, I mean, you know what I was going to pick. But manga will be the future of visual storytelling. Isn't printed for. It's that okay? That's awkward, but manga will be the future if visual storytelling in the printed format. Yeah, I
the way it's going.
Do you think manga is the future?
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah,
I do. I don't unless there is a complete and upheaval inside the two big companies. Manga will dominate everything. I mean, I'm not being mad. The sales are there. I mean, like I said, I can see DC sales, and what I'm seeing right now, no, they're not even close to.
I agree with you. I between Diamond imploding, nobody's picking up between putting out, frankly, shit comics.
Did you see the stuff that just popped up about Diamond, where they lied about some of their stuff?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. They shoot themselves.
Oh my god!
I never trusted Diamond. I didn't trust him in the 80s. I don't trust him now. I never trusted him for personal reasons. I met the Diamond people, and my spidey sense went off, and I was like, ooh. But anyway, that's besides the point. But now in America, did any of the panel, anybody on the chat, the average manga? We know it blows away American sales in Japan. That's just everybody knows that. They sell in the millions. But in America, I don't know. Does One Punch Man or 8 Piece or whatever these are called, do they sell as well as American comics in America?
I'll put it to you this way: when you go to Barnes and Nobles, you're going to see one bookshelf of graphic novels of American comics. You're going to see 5 rows of manga. 5 rows.
Right.
So, yes,
right in the bookstores.
Right now, the sales are showing they're dominating everything.
People really don't go to the bookstores for American comics. They never did. They go to the comic stores.
Right.
The issue with the American comics is they're no longer, hey, Mom, can I see this on the rack at the newspaper stand. I want to get a comic. And they're not distributed for lots of reasons to everybody anymore. It's a niche. It's a niche thing. It's a destination to go to a comic shop. Somebody, if the comic shop's really good, everybody stops by.
So
but
I went to my local comic shop today.
They're even taking out the Archie Digests from the grocery stores now.
And they got as much manga in that store as they do Western comics.
Vincenter, over there in Mexico, what anecdotally, I tell you, just within my family, everybody watches anime and reads manga more than American comics. What about down there in Mexico? What is your observations?
Well, Well, I'm not sure that a lot of Mexicans are picking up a lot of comic books and manga, but I think they're gonna pick manga more. I don't know why. Wait, I think I know why, because it's how good it is.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Right now, and I'm wearing my bias on my sleeves. I'm making American style comics. What do you guys think is better quality?
The
I guess manga.
Yeah, the manga is better quality.
Yeah. Would you say for $10?
Well, I think it's a better quality than the crowdfunded books that we're all getting, that people work on forever and make it the best they can.
Yeah, but
Good
to the
question.
average, because the crowdfunding, I fully admit, even though I'm a crowdfunding guy, I got to be realistic. We're a niche within a niche within a niche.
No, I know, but the quality of a single book, I realize that.
Now, but I'm saying you give a kid $10.
Oh, okay, that's different. Yeah,
the average normie kid for $10, what are they going to get more bang out of? Like for $10, you could buy a big thick manga that's a full story.
There's 200 pages.
200 pages. For $10, you could get a comic book and a half.
Right, $5.
Do you think? Yeah. Do you think that influences?
Oh yeah.
What a kid is?
I guess so. Although the kids in Metro would.
I'm sorry, I got caught up in my talking.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm just going to run down the comments now. Germany created the 4-cycle engine, the automobile, the diesel engine, yet every country makes cars. Yeah. Each country reflects their car culture. Yeah. I understand that, but I'm talking like an art form. Like, I don't know. But yes, we already said that other countries can make manga. I was under the influence that if I said X, whatever, random comic book A was a manga, even though it was made in America, that the true potential.
It's like Solo Leveling right now. Solo Leveling is made in Korea. It's not made in Japan, but it's a manga.
Anime versus American animation. Google TMS Entertainment. They used to animate all the U.S. shows. Okay, salute. We got a hee-haw. Oh, we got another person. Zart, how you doing?
Oh, hello there. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you sound fine. I'm just gonna run down the comments, Zart, and then I'll give you whatever you want to say. Do you think part of the comic book industry is based on scarcity for collectibles? Yes. I think collectibles is a large part, and to me, it's a fun part. I like to get first prints of the comics. I'm not so much a speculator. Like, I'm not going to buy a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to flip it and stuff like that. For me, personally, if I buy a comic, it goes into the black hole. Marcus, what do you guys do? You guys buy comics to flip, to speculate?
No,
I never sell my comic books.
Right. Yeah, I'm a true.
I'm them all already.
Nerd.
I don't sell my comics. I don't sell my manga, and I don't sell my anime.
Yeah, when I have my inevitable heart attack, my wife will have a vast comic book collection for her.
I know a guy. I'll help you out. Help her out.
Okay. Yeah.
So
you stay away from my wife.
I bought comics that were never to resell. They're always to read.
I have never been a person to resell, and the only slabs I have are those that are autographed by people I knew or that have passed away that I can't see anymore or anything like that, and I want to treasure them. So those are the only books that I have slabbed, and I don't resell anything that I have.
Speculators ruin comics. I don't like comic speculation. 30 variant cup. I absolutely 100% agree with you. And yep, I ever spoiled something. Only 3 rows of manga in my Barnes and Nobles. Yeah, but half a shelf of America. Manga are 100 to 1 American comics. Oh, that's you, High Lord Zort. There you go. More people are reading manga by magnitude. What American comics are people reading now? Look at you two people talking about manga. Yeah. All these people. Manga outselling American comics coincides with other silly stuff in entertainment. It will just never be as good. Sorry, I had a lot today. Okay. Quality in paper and ink is better in comics. Art goes to comics. Story goes to manga. Okay. I do like the American style art a lot better. Editions of comics are so much better, hardcovers and all that. Manga does what American comics used to do: great art, great writing, and great storytelling. I've left the station. Yeah, I'll get back to that later. I got something I want to say about that. 100% sure, but it seems Japanese manga has less political correct. Okay, we might as well bring it up now. Japan hasn't been affected with this woke.
Exactly.
They have
They have actually lashed out at it too.
Right, yeah. So, and if that's not proof pudding that this progressive mindset is destroying the arts, look at Japan. Geez, these guys, they don't care about their representation. Now, if representation was a real thing, Jim, would the Japanese make their comics with blue-eyed blonde characters? The average Japanese can't see themselves in these characters. They look like.
But that's the whole point of manga is to get them out of their world. Is to get them out of their everyday work lives so they can enjoy a fantasy and enjoy that. It's not relating to where they're at now. That's why isekai is so popular. Why? Because it puts you in another world where you can get away from what you're dealing with in real life. That's the whole point behind why it's so popular.
Japanese manga. Next time anybody brings up representation, I'm going to say Japanese manga is selling, and the people who create it don't even put themselves as representation. And High Lord Zard, I'm just going to finish up with comments, and I'll talk to you. There's a reality that will ruffle feathers. Waiting months or years for one comic will never complete. Yes, I get in trouble whenever I bring that up, which is, if I may sell my stuff for a second, which is why my pledge is every comic will be a complete story. I don't think it's fair to make you guys wait 10 months for a part 2 to a comic book. You're going to get a complete story that builds on the next one. That's my pledge to you. And I will never dox my customers. Manga are easier to get into. You have usually one per title. Yep. You don't have to. Oh, man, that drives me crazy. With how many freaking X-Men titles do you need to get one mediocre story? A comic that's high quality, but at least once a year or longer has a niche market. People want. Yes, but I will say this, James and Marcus, anybody, the Europeans do like one high quality volume
a year. Mostly one hardcover a year, but they have adult-ish, like heavy metal type magazine like Pilote and Metal Harlan that put a lot of those stories out in 5 to 7 page.
We're getting a Bogan raid over here. Everybody, we're going to be upside down as the Australians run by.
I'm gonna say this.
Hey, Dale A, what's up?
These do not come out every month. These come out every 4 months.
Right,
Kaiju manga.
So what I mean by that is, you can go to Shogun Jump's website. You can read the magazine and read the stories, and in 4 months they're going to put all the stories together in a book, and then the book goes out, and then everybody buys the book as well. So again, what Shogun Jump does is put the story out so you can read it real quick. Sells 5.5 million copies a week, and then when they put the book out, they sell another 5.5 million copies because everybody goes and buys the book.
Okay, Lord Zart, I'll get to you in 1 second, but I backed this new heavy metal Kickstarter because I said I'll give them one issue to see how do they piss off the backers. If you want to join the panel or put it in the chat, just let me know. But right now we got
what's up,
Lord Zart. I've seen you in the chat before. This is your first time on my channel. Welcome. And what do you want to talk about? What do you want to say?
Oh, I just wanted to go over, but when I was going into comic shops, at least when I was a kid in the 90s, the big thing was always anime. Even though there was comic books everywhere, everyone was there for things like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball. So even when I would go there every week, every Saturday, we'd go there for, card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon. It was always anime that was on conversation, not really the comic books, even though we were surrounded by them. Granted, I liked them too, but anime was much bigger for me.
And may I ask how old you are?
I'm going on 32.
Okay, so you're a baby too.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Stop that baby stuff, man. That makes me feel old.
When you're 57 years old, everybody's a baby. How old are you, James?
I'll be 54 in July. I'm the same age
as No, we're seasoned. How's that? We're seasons, James.
I'm old officially.
So usually, I would celebrate my birthday with Michael, but he's gone, so I can't do that anymore. So
I have to say this: the conversation that I pick up is the Marvel movies, and then manga. Nobody's talking about the comics.
Well, my feeling is that the movies, except for Batman '89, and I have a retailer all retailer told me this, never really drove comic sales. Batman did. Maybe that Avengers could have, and then that famous story that they're coming in looking for the Avengers comics, and they have, Thor's a girl, and Iron Man's a girl, a teenage girl, and Captain America's a black guy. Not Steve Rogers. It doesn't matter if he's black. and that they kind of so there's no proof. But even previously, the other movies like the Blade movie didn't drive people to sort of buy a whole bunch of Blade comics.
Right. There was what you're absolutely right about that. First off, I always talk about when I went to go see Batman, there was comic book stands in the movie theater. When I went
the
to
movie theaters
Blade,
don't want them.
When I went to go see Blade, people didn't even know that it was a Marvel character.
Yeah, that was the thing.
There's plenty of movies like that. Though,
so
you know,
I saw Batman '89 in Japan, and people were going nuts over that movie in Japan. When I saw the reaction from the Japanese, I was like, "Oh, this thing's going to be, this is going to be the big movie." And then when I got home, the Batman stuff was selling. Everybody, and let's face it, right now at DC Comics, the number one selling books, the ones that actually keep the company going, is Batman. It's not Superman. It's not the Justice League. It's not Flash. It is Batman. Every time
nobody in DC understands Superman. I think Superman is such a wholesome American concept that, of course,
I'll put it this way: One Punch Man is a better Superman than Superman.
These days. Yeah. Well,
part of it is
I'm being serious.
For the movies. If you go into a comic book shop, none of the comics actually show the character they'll see in a movie. If you see Goku on screen and you go to pick up the manga, it's still just Goku. If you see Superman, you can't see Superman in a comic book shop. Batman has always been Batman, though. So if you go get a Batman comic right now, it's still Bruce Wayne. But for Superman, it's someone else. For X-Men, it's always someone else. Wolverine is his daughter at this point, so they can't just go pick one up for the same character.
I hate this concept that every superhero is now a mantle. Like somebody explained it really well. They said Babe Ruth is a guy. Babe Ruth is not a mantle, and it should be the same thing. I don't know. If you want to become the new Batman, it's like you have to work your way up. Like you start out as Robin. Like that's why I don't have a problem with Carol Danvers becoming Captain Marvel, because at least she was there in 1968 in the first appearance. She earned her. How they treat her and how they characterize her in that horrible costume is a different story. But but Kamala Khan doesn't earn Miss Marvel. She can't become Captain Marvel, which they're going to do. They're going to make Kamala Khan Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel. Oh boy.
Vampire Hunter, which is difficult for me to say. Do you think a comic Shonen Jump would work in the U.S. market? What do you mean?
What he's talking about, and believe it or not, I've actually pitched this to DC and Warner Brothers to do what Shogun Jump's doing, and what I mean by that is this: every week, put out 6 to 10 pages of Batman online, or put books together and send it out every week. That way, every week you get to read Batman, you get to read Superman, you get to read something every week, and then put it out as like we do every quarter as a big thick where you can buy it that way. Do the same thing Shogun Jump's doing. You got to make it where it's cheaper, better quality, better pricing to get people in to buy the books. Because right now, I'm sorry, a 24-page book that's $5 versus a 200-page book that's $10. Which is the better deal?
Yeah. And part of it, I think, is they don't really capitalize on the stuff they do have it with them currently. Like DC's always made good animations. They had one recently for A Crisis on Infinite Earths, but for all the animated series, like the animated Batman, animated Superman, but they didn't do any comic books with it or anything. They didn't attach anything in comic form with the animation that was going good.
Yeah, I agree with you on that too.
So Maroni, they're saying that the heavy metal, they sent it to the retailers first before the backers. They're doing the same thing that Allegiance Arts did. Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
Yeah, because I sent a message because I saw Top Cow put up that, hey, you're going to be able to order the Volume 4 hardback of the Witchblade omnibuses, and it's going to be shipped. And I was like, wait a minute, what about the Kickstarter? And so they instantly sent me a message back going, no, we're doing the Kickstarter first. You guys are going to get your books first. You're going to get the autographed books, all the goodies. This is going to be released after, but we have to send in the sign-up dates for the shipping. So Top Cow, I will say this about Top Cow. When you have a concern about their Kickstarters or something like that, they usually get back with you in about 2 or 3 hours. They do not sit around and wait. They're unbelievably good.
So what Geeks do wants to know, did the X-Men 97, that's the new cartoon that just came out, did it boost X-Men sales back?
I don't know because I'm not over at Disney.
Well,
but
it was the first time I ever bought an X-Men comic, so
the
got me
thing
to
is,
get it.
when I
So
hear
look
that
for
they're
you, that's
canceling
good.
titles, that gives
Okay,
me a message
James.
of
Let other people talk.
Well,
Okay.
Oh, I just said it got me to buy. So
I do know that the Marvel movies got the speculators to. I remember when they announced Kang, all of a sudden the first appearance of Kang went from like $50 to $200, which even though I have those issues and it increases the value of my, it just pisses me off.
The movies did do that, and when I sold my books, every character that was in the Guardians of the Galaxy, Rocket Raccoon, the first of that Hulk went way. I don't know if it's still up. It went way up very quickly. They do drive a speculator market.
I remember after seeing the animation for the X-Men, I think it was 97, not the OG X-Men animation. The first one I ever bought, I didn't know the differences between the different worlds. I didn't know about the multiverse at the time. So I got the Ultimates X-Men, and yeah, and in the middle of it, I guess in the middle everything was going bad in the Ultimates comic, as in for the characters. It was pretty bad because all the characters in X-Men were just getting killed off. The Blob was like eating Kitty Pryde, and Wolverine got ripped apart. So it was not a good introduction, but I did see some good stories, so it got me somewhat.
That's a good point. Now, this manga, I'll address Logic's finest comment, but thanks, Zart, you gave me an idea. I'm not familiar with manga, but like, if the only manga anime I watched was so far as a series was Full Metal Alchemist, and I freaking loved it. It was so good, so in depth. It was just really good. Now, if I was to buy the manga, are there different? Is there Ultimate Full Metal Alchemist? Is there Absolute Full Metal Alchemist? I'm being facetious, but there's one version of this thing, right?
I don't know.
Well, kind of. There is a difference between the original animation for Full Metal, just because that was before the manga had finished. So that one ends on a slightly different story, whereas the actual manga ends in Brotherhood. So Brotherhood, the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood animation is completely identical to the manga, really, whereas the original animation was not, just because they didn't have an ending to work with.
Like the Game of Thrones TV show versus what eventually will be the books when this fat bastard actually finishes those novels.
Yeah,
and
he's never finishing them. Never.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone likes both. Ironically, I guess because they put a lot of effort into both, but they still prefer the Brotherhood just because it's faithful to the actual comic.
See, I didn't know there was a difference, but so there's not really multiple versions of the same character. If you're going to watch One Punch Man, you're going to see One Punch Man. You're not.
Yeah, it's just the one guy.
I like that so much better. I can't stand Ultimate Batman, Ultimate Absolute Batman, regular. I just think it dilutes the brand and it just makes Batman just, I don't know. Like, I could see the difference between the movie, the TV show, and the comic book because
the way multiverses are handled in Japan in general tend to be better. Like even for Isekai recently, like the whole concept is a character that he's technically quote unquote immortal, but he still dies and he comes back. It's like a redo of a scene, but in reality, he's just going to another universe, his consciousness. But it's, they don't focus on the other universe. All that matters is the perspective of the actual main character. Even though there's technically one happening, the rest are irrelevant.
Okay. Logic Finest has
well, actually.
Go ahead. We got an actually guy here. Go ahead.
Well, actually, Japan does reboots better than the US because they usually reboot their anime if the anime is straying away from the source material.
Okay, I didn't know they redid reboots.
Yeah,
that was the American thing.
So on the reboots, and I'll bring up a couple that have done it. So you had back in the 80s, early 90s, you had Bubblegum Crisis. That came out really good and made good anime. Well, then around 2004, 2005, they redid the anime to make it more modern, but kept with the same story. Same thing with, like, right now, you have Rama One Half being redone right now. Same thing with Rurouni Kenshin being redone right now. These are
Right.
stuff that happened back in the 90s and 80s
Since
that
you
are being redone now.
brought up a Witchblade anime, and would you want a reboot of that one for the modern age?
The Witchblade
I haven't
anime,
seen that yet.
the Witchblade anime is a unique anime because Top Cow was heavily involved with it. I
Okay.
actually liked
I
it.
think the Witchblade anime was the top cow Witchblade.
Yeah, no. The Witchblade that's in Witchblade, which Top Cow was involved with, is not Sarah Purcell. No, it's not. It's a completely different woman. She's in another country. Everything's different. It's
And the
actually
darkness isn't involved,
it's a
I think, right?
standalone anime. It's what it is. It's a standalone. It doesn't have anything to do with the continuity of
I
Top
want to
Cow.
address this comment that's been up for 20 minutes. John, my daughter has friends from college who work at DC now. The under 35 crowd have a hard time with Superman. They don't like the wholesome mom baseball and apple pie image. That's obvious. I knew that before you told me that. DC, since Man of Steel, at least, they just fundamentally don't get Superman. I don't know what it is. Superman is supposed to be a Boy Scout. Superman is supposed to be wholesome. He's supposed to intrinsically be good. But
Well, I think the hard counter to that for modern audiences, even for like young kids, teens, is My Hero Academia pretty much spits in the face of that. All Might is just Superman, but everyone loves All Might. For people who say he's too much of a Boy Scout, All Might is that exact concept, and everyone loves him. So I think they just don't know that.
Then what
is
happened
he
to All Might-
is he good like Superman, or is he like
he's pure good. I mean,
Oh,
he
good,
is,
good. Okay, I was actually
but something does happen to him, and you'd have to read the manga. I'm not going to spoil it.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil.
But something does happen.
The truce is off.
Yeah.
Truce bust. I have no idea what you're talking about. So okay. It's the under 35 crowd that's been pushing the woke remakes of DC and Marvel, according to my daughter's friend. Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe that. There was comic expanding on the same time. Yeah, there was a comic book based on the cartoons. Which
Yeah,
I think is a good idea.
X-Men.
There was. You met the woman who was pushing the woke on.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I tried to have her on my
I don't
channel.
know if she's under 30. I guess she's still under 35.
I don't know. I don't see this coordinated strategy. What do you mean by that comment? Is there something that we said? Sometimes the comments I'm addressing them 10, 15 minutes later. And I don't know what you're addressing. Guardians of the Galaxy books, they went crazy.
Yeah, because of the movies, the comic books.
The back issue sales. Okay.
But those weren't the real Guardians of the Galaxy that I remember.
No, we're talking about the comic books. The sales went through the roof.
I know.
Guardians of the Galaxy filmed Room Drax the Destroyer. That character is named. I will say this: there was a Drax Destroyer 4-issue miniseries that looks like the.
I wouldn't even say just Drax.
Yeah,
Gamora was pretty different too.
I don't know if the movies could have had that purple guy in like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so
all
he was like that in the he was like that in the comics before the series, and I remember it was very jarring to go from this purple Drax guy and then this tattooed wrestler-looking guy, and he had a girl sidekick from Australia that they completely, from Alaska, that they completely forgot about, but they brought her back in that little like Hunger Games kind of story. I don't know. It was a good story, but they might as well have made a new character. I absolutely. Yeah. Growing up, I always thought ninjas were Chinese.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought kung fu was Japanese, but it turns out China invented, karate and kung fu. Lieutenant Yu says, for the most part. Okay, I don't know the beginning of that. I like the original FMA anime. What is that?
Full Metal Alchemist.
Yeah,
Full Metal Alchemist. Done. I'm the one who brought it up.
Because the two have different endings. The two animes have different endings.
Yeah.
I never read the manga, but I love Akira. I never read it. What do you think, James? You read it, right?
I will say this. I recommend reading it, but do not expect the movie. Akira is a lot darker than the anime.
Yeah, a lot of darker scenes are stretched out, especially along the city part of it.
But I know his name. I can't say it on me. His backgrounds, his cityscapes are a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, the details in them.
Yeah.
I kind of put it up there with Berserk's creator.
Yeah, his backgrounds, because I follow him on Twitter and I've got his architecture books. He draws cityscapes like nobody else.
We were just talking about European comics like the Franco-Belgian, I think they're some of the best comics ever made. Like if you get is it Tex Ritter, Italian comics doing American Westerns. Oh my God. If you like American Western stories, get those. And then there's Asterix, which is really good. I mean, we all know what's the name of the kid. Now it's going to drive me nuts that I can't remember his name. Who travels around, the Belgian kid?
Tintin.
Yeah, it was driving me. I'm looking at it, but I didn't want to get up and get it. DC is a joke. Is anybody? Oh wow, we got 130 people watching. Is anybody hardcore collecting DC or hardcore collecting?
I get some DCs here now and then, but also because of my background, I am trying to fix it, but we'll see what happens. We got a meeting June 2nd, so we'll see what fireworks happen there.
I tried getting back into the, I guess, modern DC. I kind of stopped as soon as New 52 started, but I picked up the Batman story where I guess he goes to war with Catwoman, and I couldn't stand it. Immediately got pulled out of it, so is what it is.
Yeah, I think that I call it lifting the legs. These new writers, they just want to put their mark on the character rather than tell a good story.
Well, that's what I'm doing to your character. It's all mine.
Well, we're making it up. We're allowed to do that. There's no such thing as a modern audience. Absolutely.
I've been making up all my stuff as I've been going for 5 years now. So, and for some reason, everybody loves it and have bought them. So I'll say this to anybody that bought my books. Thank you so much.
I'm waiting for the Ghibli stuff. I'm waiting for the Ghibli Steins.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, well, something interesting that has happened with anime and manga kind of just popped in my head. There was Super Sentai, which is like the whole Ranger thing, and then it came over to the States as Power Rangers. But now it's kind of going back over to Japan, where they're starting to include Power Ranger characters with Sentai, and they're having manga and anime with this fusion of American-style Power Rangers and Super Sentai, which is, it's crazy to see, but it's pretty interesting storytelling to see them fuse.
It's funny because I think I understood every third word in that sentence that you just. No, I'm teasing, but yeah. Well, like things go back and forth, right? I just saw on Twitter. I don't know how true it is. I'm not there in Japan, but there's like a whole Japanese subculture where the kids are fascinated with cowboys, American cowboys, the American West.
Oh yeah,
that's actually been like that since I was over there the first time in '88. When it comes to cowboys, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of quick draw, like actual pistoliers in Japan, despite the fact they can't really have them.
That's cool. I remember in the 90s, because I was an 80s punk rocker, and I remember in the 90s, it seemed like Japan, American punk was super big. And then I was always into rockabilly too. And I remember in the 90s, there was a band called Guitar Wolf, and these guys had like pompadours, like everything American did. The Japanese did ridiculous. Guitar Wolf, it's just rockabilly punk distortion, and they're like
rockabilly.
Well, actually, I guess to keep it back in American comics, they had the whole era when Marvel was really popular, where they made the anime Marvel characters. So they had Spider-Man, Cyclops, Wolverine, and there was actual animation. Do you think they should have pushed harder for that in Japan to try and make up for what they lost?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, they did do something a while back. They made actual anime series in Japan of X-Men, Iron Man, Wolverine. What was the other one? There was one more. But
Lieutenant Blueberry. Yeah.
Oh, Blade.
Blueberry.
David Blade. So they did those. They released them. I've actually got copies of them. I'm like, why in the hell did you guys not use this animation style for stuff over here instead of the stuff that you used for X-Men 97?
Oh, yeah.
The X-Men they released in Japan is unbelievable. I mean, it's 100 times better than anything X-Men 97 did.
That's kind of what I mean, because I saw a bunch of... So I don't just watch comic book artists on Twitter or other social media. I watch a lot of mangaka, and all of them were actually making Spider-Man art through that entire period. And even like regular kids and stuff were starting to draw Spider-Man more in Japan, but then they didn't really do anything with it. They didn't push it, at least as far as I'm aware.
That's a good question.
I don't know what happened, but American companies, Marvel, DC, do not push their titles that much in Japan, and that's a killer for it as well. Because, like I said, when you go over there, manga is everywhere. It's on billboards, it's on sides of buildings, it's on buses,
Yep.
it's wrapped around trains, it's everywhere. And I mean, this is how big manga gets. How would you like to go to a bar after work to sit down and have drinks and read manga? That's real. That's really.
I went to my wife and I went to the movies 2 weeks ago, and next to the movies, there's a place called Meat Noodle. And we were like, hey, let's try it out. We walk in, it's all anime. It's all, I took pictures, I put it on Twitter. So I guess it's coming to America. Matt Barr, and I also wanted to say Baromi, they brought up Lieutenant Blueberry. For those of you who don't know why there's people are saying Blueberry in the chat, it's not a random comment. Morbius has a series of American Westerns set in the Civil War. Blueberry, I think, is a Civil War lieutenant, and then the war ends and he goes and has adventures in the West. It's amazing, and it's not the typical Mobius art style. I think he uses his real name under, what is his name? Garage. Yep. Yeah. It's really good, guys. It's actually the first Western comics that I got into because it was a Marvel comic in the States. I don't know why somebody saying Satoshi Tak is I don't know the name.
That's the one that has backgrounds for Akira.
Listen, sorry for disturbing you guys, but I gotta go. My dad's gonna pick me up.
Hey, it's great having you. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for appreciate it. That's what this is all about.
But before I go, I just want to apologize to James for disturbing him and getting which played wrong. I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
No, dude, you're fine.
No, don't. We don't get mad here. It's called clobbering time, but we really don't clobber anybody.
Yeah, no. You're fine. You're fine.
And also, I want to apologize to you guys for ruining the stream. All right, I'm so sorry.
No,
don't worry about
it. You're fine.
If I'm on it, it's already ruined. There's no worries.
It was ruined when I hit play, just because I showed up.
You're welcome back. Come back next week.
You all, come back next, like they said at Hee-Haw. Tony Grigo says, the only DC I'm collecting right now are the facsimile editions. This is an interesting comment. I forget who I was talking to. I think it was this week when I said that my wife and I went to go see Die Hard in the movie theaters last year. It was the first time I've ever seen it. And I was blown away, and Die Hard did good. And now, one of the Star Wars movies, Return of the Revenge of the whatever.
Return of the Jedi, I think.
Not Return of the Jedi, the last one of the prequels.
Return of the Sith.
One of the prequels.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's like the #1 movie in America
Yeah.
now. So DC, Tony, what's his name? Dan DiDio was getting a little perturbed because the facsimile editions were selling better than anything else.
Yes, Revenge of the Sith. That's right.
Right. And now Revenge of the Sith is the no. Why don't these people who produce entertainment realize that this is what we want? Like Dan DiDio, don't get mad that facsimile editions are selling better. Figure out why they're selling better and what can you do to replicate it in a new style. Why are people seeing this Star Wars movie and everything else? I didn't particularly. Oh, okay, he just left. But learn, find out what sells.
I mean, we didn't even like the prequels that much, but they're so much better than what came after. People love them.
So here's the reason why everything went like this, and this is what's going on. For the last 4 years, the federal government has used USAID
right
to funnel billions of dollars into Hollywood to push a specific.
Yeah, the psyops.
And they pushed a hell of a lot of messages, which has to do with the LGBT, the DEI, and all that stuff.
It's artificially propped up sales, yeah.
No, they paid them under the table, so they didn't have to show the sales.
Previously called ESG.
And what they did was this money was going.
James, I just want to say, I'm so happy that we're proving Zach wrong. Remember, he just said ESG. There's no money, and your boy Zach,
forever. Yeah, I remember.
And your boy Zach. That's not the way it works. But guess what, Zach? That's the way it works.
That's what they were using. They were using the comic companies to get the Obama ESG USAID money because they could easily make those woke. They couldn't super easy for them to do it. So they all became woke.
So what has happened, and this is where the turmoil is, the new administration has cut off all funding.
Right.
So all that money that was coming under the table is gone.
Right.
This is why you're seeing such upheaval in Hollywood. This is why Warner Brothers is talking about moving all operations to Las Vegas so they can get out of California.
And more than that, even in Japan, they kind of started catching wind of what translators are starting to do to their work on our end.
They fired
And
them all.
yep, they fired them. They're starting to move towards AI. It's not the optimal thing, but it's literally the only route they have because all of the translators they have over here do the same thing. They do the whole ESG thing.
Yeah.
It got so bad that the government in Japan started to get involved. Like the prime minister started to speak on it.
Yeah. So this was all funded by the federal government for the last 4.5, 5 years. And what happens now is all that money's gone. Everything's gone. That's why, if you haven't heard, almost 90% of all productions in California are done. They're not even being funded. They used to have 1,500 showrunners for the new season. They've got 50. That's the difference right now. There is no money that's being thrown around like it was. And the only place that's got money right now is Warner Brothers. But Warner Brothers is talking about picking up everything, including selling the studio lots and everything, and relocating to California because all of the complete and utter stupidity of their mandates in California.
Yep.
This is a complete mess right now. And this is going to be brought up. This is going to be a major talking point on June 2nd. So all this stuff's going to be coming down on June 2nd. So yeah, it's going to be a complete disaster.
So, the ESG money that Zach, your boy Zach, said didn't exist, really did exist. It was propping up everything.
Yeah.
But it's all over. Doge shut it down. And I really do think we're turning a corner. And I do think it's put up or shut up time. I can't help but be doom and gloom. I do think
PBS.
What's that?
They're defunding NPR and PBS.
Yeah, I think good.
I agree 100%.
Well, the government shouldn't have been funding them in the first place because they all go, we need donations from you.
And then you get people coming up on. We've seen these all in our threads. What about the education of our kids? Come on, since 1968, Sesame Street has started all this DEI stuff into the kids' heads since I was a little kid.
But not only that.
Look at who's.
But not only that, kids can't make change right now. Kids can't tell time on a rotary clock. So what are they going to lose if we stop it? It would be one thing if we
they're on HBO anyway. Sesame Street's on HBO before it gets reprinted.
A lot of these programs
it makes
now,
enough money on its own.
A lot of these programs are no longer on PBS, and they're in other places. So you really don't need PBS.
Right, James is right.
Isn't Sesame Street on Disney?
Isn't it also it
was on
Disney owns
HBO
so
Max.
they own everything.
It's on Max.
I don't remember the exact number, but I know illiteracy across the states shot up closer to 50% in the modern age, isn't it?
Yeah, it's bad.
To the point, again, this is beyond the purview of this discussion, but the conspiracy theory in me thinks it's so bad that it's got to be by design.
Oh, it's by design.
Because if it was just bad, it wouldn't be this bad.
No, it's the law.
That's why you're seeing upheaval right now in Hollywood as general. That means comic books, everything like that. There's an upheaval going on inside the buildings.
Yes,
you've got people fighting over it.
If it was just being bad, the comics are really nothing would have survived. Novels are kind of. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
New people have right away.
Please.
I was going to say, someone who spoke kind of on this was Jim Butcher. He's a novelist, writes the Dresden Files.
Oh, yeah.
He says he can't just choose to write whatever he wants. If you write something that's bad or doesn't do well, he'll just go broke. So he has to change over. The fact that they went this long with it's not just them being bad. They're being propped up to push things.
Okay, my feeling about it starting in the 60s with we were all buttoned down, everybody had haircuts, and then all of a sudden it was the hippies out of the blue. It was the long game by the communists because they couldn't overturn the government. They tried in the 50s and they got caught. So it's a long game by the communists to turn the society around to get rid of all the morals. And it got ramped out by 100% when Trump started running in 2015 and 2016 and we became president, that's when everybody went nuts and they pushed really hard because they knew if this guy gets in, that's going to be the end of it. And I believe it's going through all through the 70s. They emphasized girls versus boys in the 70s, where they were making sure girls are educated instead of boys. Now, my boys survived that. You can find pockets of places to go to school. But that's my basic – you talk about conspiracy theory. That's my biggest conspiracy theory.
And
I'm sticking to it.
And then they put fluoride in the water just to make sure.
So here's the thing that to bring this up, because this goes back to Brezhnev. Okay, do you guys remember Brezhnev?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
He actually said it's not going to be missiles and troops and everything. We're going to corrupt your youth.
Right.
He actually said that at the UN. Okay. So what do you have? You have now, instead of you got to be the best, is participation. Not the best anymore. And what's failing right now? I saw this number and I almost fell over. Last year, in the college in New York, where theoretical physics is taught, not one American student was able to get into that class because they didn't know anything. And 90% of the students in there were from Asia. 90% from Asia.
They don't like the Asians.
Because we decided, instead of trying to get our children smarter, that we would make everybody equal and make them dumber. And if you noticed, like with Boston University, Boston School District, they got rid of their excellence programs and their accelerated programs because they said there was too many white and Asian kids in there and they needed to make it even for everybody. That came from the actual school board.
Yep.
And they got rid of
I was a public school teacher. You don't have to tell me. It's one of the reasons why I quit.
So the problem is, yes, get rid of the Department of Education, give it back to the states, let the states handle it like it should have been in the first place. And let the states deal with it, and you're going to get a lot of things fixed.
You know, that's a funny thing. They always say everything that goes from the federal government, give it back to the states, like the founders wanted. They all scream, oh, what about the education? When the whole education is just the Department of Education is a complete grift.
Yeah.
I say we defund this guy and the UN, so there you go.
Yeah, that's true.
Who's that supposed to be?
That's the Peacekeeper. He's a character in Heroic Tales. He's
okay. I was going to say.
Thanks, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah. So when you guys started talking about the UN and everything like that.
Well, you got to stick it in. I've been trying to get the links, but I remember.
Oh my God!
Everybody back Heroic Tales. It doesn't have any of this what we're talking about, and it's all comics fun.
So anyway, things got so bad that even the Japanese were making fun of us. They had a word for weak liberal Americans. Does anybody know the word that I'm thinking about?
I don't know that word. I know what gaijin means, but that ain't what it means.
No. I know that a lot of they had a lot of the games coming out of Japan, you could, stylize your character. They made settings where you could make your character more ugly or more ugly looking. And they said just because a lot of Americans want to make their characters look more ugly. It had nothing to do with it. It's just what they want style wise.
Yeah, and I remember they came out and said we're not going to make games to suit Americans and the West anymore. We're going to make it suit Japanese now. We're going to go back to that. We're just tired of playing with everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll finish this up now. We've been talking for 2.5 hours almost. So again, when I said verse, to me this isn't a clear-cut winner. I mean, you like what you like. This, there's no sense of arguing over what you find sexy, what you find delicious, or what you find entertaining. It's all individual choice. I was raised on American comics. I'm an American comic fanatic, so of course I'm going American comics just because that's. But it doesn't mean manga is bad or anything like that. If anything, I want to learn more about manga. The ones that I'm interested in are One Punch, or Punch. What's it called?
One Punch Man,
and
My Hero Academia,
because they're superhero stuff, and I still love superheroes. So I mean, we got 140 people watching.
Not
I would also recommend Solo Leveling and Kaiju number 8.
I don't want to go crazy.
No, I'm just saying those who could fit in the superhero category.
Comics for collecting, manga for that's another topic. Is like, do you read your comics or do you collect your comics? That could be a good clobbering time issue.
So I've read every kind of book I own.
Everybody in the chat, tell whether you like comics or manga. When you say comics, we're talking American style comics. What is it that you like? And also around now, what should we talk about next week? Anybody have a topic? I'll start with you, Luna. You're the newest. Anything you think we should talk about next week?
As far as clobbering time, can you guys hear me first of all?
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, it's just I can't hear my voice on my headphones because I got new headphones because the last one pair died. But anyhow, I don't know about clobbering time. Do you want to go back to like characters versus characters?
Yeah, anything.
Yeah, no. The last 2 weeks we've been a little highfalutin.
Yeah, we're pretentious now. We've entered the pretentious stage.
We're post-pretentious.
We're post-tentious will debut Wednesday at 7 p.m. That's Fabrizio Aiello and I will be talking about Sebastian O. Grant Morrison's 3-issue Vertigo series about what if Oscar Wilde was a superhero. How
I'm gonna have to watch that.
It's so pretentious. It's post-tentious.
Have you guys did Deadshot versus Bullseye?
Deadshot versus Bullseye. That's a good one.
We did not do Deadshot versus Bullseye. That's a pretty good one.
Deadshot versus Bullseye. That's a really good one. I got to say, Luna, you're batting 1,000. I'm still thinking about.
Well, I never think of anything.
I never even thought about that one. Wow.
I still like your
really
comment from last week.
That one.
If you remember, Luna last week said, everybody talks about buying comic books for the art. Would you buy the Harley Fart book if it was drawn by Neil Adams?
Yeah, probably.
And that was just a freaking arrow right to the heart.
I would say probably.
Sorry, what do you think about next week for its clobbering time? And also, are you a manga guy or are you a comics guy?
I guess at this point, more manga. If I could just isolate the comic book stories to specific storylines like Kingdom Come, Court of Owls, etc., I'd probably say comic books, but since they're all conjoined, I have to go manga.
Okay.
I always throw out more outlandish characters, so Luke Skywalker versus your character, Mary Sue.
Ooh, Luke Skywalker versus Mary Sue. I will say this. Mary Sue will beat the crap out of Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
The funny thing is I'm uncomfortable with my characters until like they debut. Like we did a Patriarch versus Six Gun Gorilla because you guys can read the comics and
then you got a spoiler.
So Mary Sue, I wouldn't do anything with Mary Sue until you guys actually. I know Marcus read it.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
But you know what I mean? I don't think it's fair, and plus I'd be spoiling the comp, even though I pretty much spoiled everything about it. So, Captain Kirk versus Han Solo. In what way? Like, who's going to pick up more women? That's an interesting one.
Captain Kirk beats everybody.
I think the guy from Firefly would be better to go against.
What's his name? I can't think of his name.
Of the Firefly.
They're basically the same character. Marcus, I know you're going to say American.
Oh, I have to say comics. I mean, I've studied a bunch of them. I mean, I studied, know a little about manga, and I respect all that. But it has to be American comics.
Oh, I see a comment now that I gotta talk about.
Okay, I see it.
I saw it too.
James, what do you see? You're interesting. I don't know what you're gonna say because I know you're a manga fan, but I also know you're a comic book fan. So I'm kind of curious what you have to say.
For me, I can't choose because I like both.
Okay, I didn't expect.
I'm serious. I have almost 30 long. I have 30 long boxes of comic books. I've got 5 boxes autographed. I've got manga. I've got anime. For me, because of being in Japan for so long and being back in the States for so long and like that, it's just something I enjoy. I enjoy both of them equally. I collect them equally. I buy them equally. Okay. And I love them equally.
I got one more question. How is the food in Japan?
Do you like fish?
Not really. It's funny. I don't like fish.
Well, you can get chicken, you can get pork, but don't expect to get beef because beef is extremely expensive.
Yeah, I could live on chicken and noodles. I
like fish.
I mean, you can get potatoes and fries and whatever, corn and stuff. You can get stuff over there. It's just you gotta adjust everything.
I don't remember. Have you ever done a new team versus old team, like modern X-Men versus the older X-Men?
No, the closest was we did the original Doom Patrol versus the original X-Men.
Okay.
But the new X-Men, like you'd have to define them because they're literally an army now. Like the only fair fight would be like the Legion of Superheroes versus the new X-Men because there's like 100 members on both sides. So if you would have say the new X-Men, you'd almost have to like pick an era, you know?
Oh yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, well, yeah. X-Men 95.
Because they basically made their entire school the X-Men as opposed to just the team.
We got people in the chat are saying like European comics versus US comics. I like them all for different reasons. Again, only because I'm not familiar with it, I would put manga last just because I'm not that familiar with it. Like I've seen more anime than read manga. I vote for indie American comics. That's what I get most. Yeah, me too. Indie versus mainstream. There's a good clobbering topic. Captain Kirk versus Han Solo. Ben likes comics better. Tarzan versus Conan.
We did that.
We did that one already. Now here's the comment that I'm liking. I'm leaning towards this.
I thought you would. I saw
Norse,
Yes.
the Norse gods versus the Greek gods. Oh my God! I use
more about the Greek gods.
I'm using channel owner privilege and putting this one right to the top of the list. Bing, bing.
Oh yes. I think
The comics or the
More
myths?
about the Greek gods.
See, Zart just said the comics or the myths. That.
Now I
Well,
know
the Greek gods are the
myths
Roman
better than I do the
Roman
comics.
versions.
I know the myths better than I do the comics. And if we're going to do that, the winner of that group takes on the.
Don't say anything. We got to save it. You don't speculate now. You got to save it. Otherwise,
So we're talking Greek gods. No, we're not going to go to the Roman versions, right?
Greek.
Yeah, Greek.
Yeah, we'll go Greek. Yeah,
We'll go full Greek.
That didn't sound good. If we clip that, we'll go Greek.
So Alan Moore versus Grant Morrison, and then everybody's.
Oh, Matt Barr's coming next week. Yes.
We got the Joker versus Norman Osborn. I just hope anybody beats the Joker because.
Well, you know what?
It's not that I hate the Joker. It's just that he's been used so much.
That current Martin Robinson that slept with Gwen Stacy could be killed by the Joker.
Kirk wins with the double axe handle
really
chop.
ruins everything.
I got the Star Trek role-playing game, and that maneuver is actually called the Smash.
Wait, what about his butt? You ever see it when he hits the guy with his butt when he runs on the wall? That's the best.
James, we share that sentiment. I like both. There you go. KFC on Christmas. I had a Japanese friend, and he was telling me that I should go to Japan and get a job as a professional Santa Claus.
No. But
They eat
KFC
KFC on Christmas.
is the meal for Christmas in Japan.
I actually went down a rabbit hole.
Everybody goes. We did too. Everybody went to KFC for Christmas.
You have to order your meal now.
Right.
For Christmas over there.
Yeah,
Plastic Marvel versus Marvel Reborn. Oh God! If anybody chooses Marvel Reborn, what are you watching this channel for? Death's Head versus Cyborg. That's a good one. Yeah, Matt, you got to come with us. We're gonna do Norse mythology versus Greek mythology next week.
Yeah, come on. Yeah, come in, Matt. We'll talk
It's gonna
about
be Asgard versus Olympus. I want to make Marcus to make a comic. Woohoo! Count me in. All right, Matt's coming in.
All right.
Who's a bigger dog, Zeus or Odin? That could be part of it.
Best indie femme fatale. I can't even read anymore. Femme fatale. That's a good one. I'm not going to do that for clobbering time, but in the indie scene, in our scene, who is the best femme fatale? I'm going to say Perfect 10.
I'm going to say she.
She's a good one.
Lady Death.
Does she count as a perfect? Well, I guess she was one before.
Yeah,
I will say that I watched a video yesterday making fun of a matchup between Penguin and Kingpin. Obviously, if they get in a fight, Kingpin wins. But I think the pair up was more like a battle of wits, like a street fight. Like not a street fight, but like a street gang war. like Kingpin versus Penguin, who would win in a game war?
I'd say the Kingpin.
Yeah, Kingpin's got more resources and money.
He's got
Well,
more resources.
You got to go to that version that Chuck and Graham did of Penguin. You couldn't use the regular Penguin.
Right.
But
To me,
you
the Penguin always worked
that
best
Penguin.
as like the nightclub guy that like brokered information and stuff. But the goofy guy with the umbrellas, I never liked him even as a kid. I made no secrets about my dislike of Silver Age DC.
I'm the Penguin.
Yeah. Although Burgess Meredith,
He shows awesome.
Burgess Meredith beats anybody just because of his Twilight Zone episode. Marvel Asgard or Norse Asgard, John? We're going to talk about both. We'll talk about the comic book versions of the gods, and we'll talk about the mythological versions.
That could be a 3-hour show.
Yeah,
That'd be a 5-hour show.
Even if we have no guests, I could talk for 6 hours about
I
this.
know
one.
you could.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Both
Red
pretty big
Skull versus-
pantheons.
Well, Captain Nazi is a Superman ripoff. So I mean, if we're talking sheer power, Captain Nazi's going to rip. Red Skull really doesn't have any powers. The Norse gods are nothing like Marvel god. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I mean, would it be better since this is the comic book channel? We do like the comic versions of Norse and Greek mythology.
Absolutely, we're going to have to talk about both. You know, in order to do it justice, we'll talk. And like Marcus said, has anybody got anything else? Anything better to do on a Friday night? Like talk to your wife or hang out?
No, my wife doesn't like me anyway.
Yeah.
What doesn't like you?
Although if I keep getting views on YouTube, I'll be back in her good graces.
Yeah, I was surprised by that little 2-minute snippet.
Yeah, I was surprised too.
I think it's almost a
balls.
2,000.
I will say that I have yet to talk about manga versus comics. And
Oh, go ahead. Yes. So say something, Luna. Go ahead.
All right. So, I would have to lean manga because I grew up with more anime. Like, I read some manga when I was a kid growing up in the library. They had manga, and I read Dragon Ball, Naruto, all the classics, One Piece. And I will say comics, I strive to make, I am more passionate about. But I say story-wise, I get more invested in anime and manga because when has a comic book ever made you cry?
When the New 52 started.
But intentionally, like they actually get you emotionally invested with the character.
You know what's funny about that, Luna? Lately, I get emotional. I'm gonna say the story of the public eye and the female character that he interacts. I got emotional writing it.
The death of Gwen Stacy.
Gwen Stacy didn't make me cry because I was a little kid. And,
The death of Gwen Stacy. No, I mean just emotional stories that really rope you in. The death of Phoenix.
I
Jean
mean,
Grey.
there was a story.
That meant a
There was
lot.
a story with Peter Parker is talking to Aunt May, and they have a heart to heart, and then Pete picks her up and starts dancing with her. That got me emotional.
That one story with Spider-Man, the boy who figured that backup in the annual by Roger Stern and
I think
Rod Friends.
the two that got me emotional was the one with Spider-Man met the one above all.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Where
That one was relatable.
yeah,
And then the one where the Fantastic Four met the one above all, and it was Jack Kirby.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
That one was kind of emotional too because Jack had left. You know, he was already gone. And those two got me. And then there was, what was the manga? There was a manga where, the manga X, where everybody died at the end.
I also cried when they showed the designs for all the Marvel Reborn characters. That made me cry.
Yeah.
But I would say those are the ones that got me.
I also cried when they brought out Cable because it was the worst character ever made. That made me cry.
Oh, James, I did want to say I did post this in our DM group that if he gets Rob on, I'm waiting for Rob to invite me to Extreme Studios too.
Dan DiDio versus Brian Michael Bendis. Who's more hated?
Brian Michael Bendis.
Brian Michael Bendis. Dan DiDio I think he meant well, and he was trying to do what he could. I just think either he was too rigid in his thinking, or maybe he was held. I don't know all the back, but I will extend Dan Didio.
I would say Dan Didio. I would say some of the creators around this parts did like Dan Didio. So he's
like a
also
nice guy.
better than.
I think he was in earnest. I think he loves comics. I think he was doing what he thought was best. He was just misguided or wrong or stubborn or short-sighted. Whereas Brian Michael Bendis, what gets me mad about him is he's an excellent writer when he's doing his own stuff. Powers is an excellent comic.
It's a good comic. I got Powers.
And then he goes on to other and he crap like to the point I'm like, is he just destroying competition? And then
James could talk about this. How much power, even did Dan Didio have? How much at corporate?
Oh yeah.
What he had to do.
I will say this as someone who is new to this sphere. I would say Brian Michael Bendis is more hated because I heard of the guy.
There you go.
See, this is
I think Luna is going to be the Mama Donna of this show. Just comes out with a good zinger every once in a while.
I know.
I've actually sat down and talked with Brian, and when it comes to horror, he's great. You know, when he comes to horror, but I don't know what it's like. He turns on a switch and just destroys comics. You know, when it's not his.
There's a point where you can be too cutesy. Like Peter David got to the point where I felt like at the end, he's still writing, but at the end of when I was reading, everything was a self-insert. Everything was snarky Peter David character, you know.
The position Dan DiDio was in, he had a lot of control. But Dan DiDio was moved out before the big sell happened, so he was still over with the AT&T thing.
That's true. Yeah, I remember that. I worked AT&T at that time.
Everything with AT&T was garbage.
Yeah, I know. AT&T shouldn't.
I mean, the numbers and the amount of money that they lost is mind-boggling.
Yeah, I know.
I've never seen a number like that in the history of everything I've invested in. I have never seen a company with $550 billion in debt.
Yeah, I know. I worked for them at that time.
I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And then when they did the sale, I came in when they did the sale because a lot of the investors and shareholders jumped. So I came in and picked up everything pennies on the dollar. And so that's when I got involved with Warner Brothers.
That's when they got rid of the CEO of AT&T too, because he made all these bad deals with DirecTV and buying Warner Brothers.
Oh God! But Warner Brothers, when I looked at Warner Brothers, they have a light at the end of the tunnel, and I know what they're going to do. But like I said today, I want the head of Warner Brothers, not Warner Brothers Discovery, but the head of Warner Brothers, which is two different people. I want him fired.
Excuse me.
Well, I guess this kind of adds to it because, you know, the manga and Japan stuff has become more popular in the States. In a little while, characters like Superman and Batman that are pretty much exclusively theirs are going to become public domain. Granted, not the newer stuff, but how are they going to handle when that becomes public domain and like Japanimation or anime gets a hold on them?
Oh, I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to happen.
Or even you guys, once you have access to, Superman and Batman, even if it's the old school versions, that's going to change a lot of things.
Oh, believe me, if I get my hand on Batman, you have never seen anything as dark as what I'm going to write.
I'll tell you this. I look, right now the Submariner and the original Human Torch are public domain. It's not like people are shouting it. And I heard rumors that the original Captain Marvel Shazam is public domain. I don't know if this is true or not.
The Submariner is public domain. They just don't.
I wouldn't touch it because I'm too small, and just the threat of a lawsuit is enough to shut a guy like me down. But if you want to do it, fine. But I look at it as like, if you want to start a band, I want to do my original songs. I don't want to be a cover band. I don't want to make comic books with characters that other people created.
I feel that way, but when I look at some of those 40 characters and costumes, like, oh, that looks like. But a lot of them were done in Project Superpowers for Dynamite anyway.
Now, like a
project already done it, I don't really want to do it. No,
that would be kind of fun to make like a team of all public domain characters, and then somebody like is Sherlock Holmes like. like when I talk about public domain superhero, I'm talking about like comic book characters like Sherlock Holmes, Dracula, stuff like that. Those are whatever.
That's different, yeah.
Different.
Those have been Dracula's
But like the Green
Dracula has been
Llama,
public
like some
domain
of them are really interesting.
You know, if I came up with a story, I would do like a public domain.
But you're kind of doing it anyway.
I don't want to incorporate the Green Llama in heroic tales. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
I want my stuff to be my stuff.
Eddie is doomed. You're going to have your own kind of public domain
I'll put it to you this way: when it comes to public domain, in my new novel that I'm working on right now, I have a couple of characters that are public domain. Number one is Tiamat. If you didn't know, Tiamat has been public domain all the time.
Wait, the Babylonian god or
no, the Babylonian dragon?
Yeah, it's mythology.
I can design my own dragon. I don't need the one that D&D did. The 6-headed dragon, I don't need that one. I can make my own.
I'll tell you this: Tiamat is also in heroic tales.
I love the name Tiamat. I know the Babylonian tales over too.
I got to fight Michael Bancroft when I use some Sumerian mythology. It's actually the rules in indie comics. If you want to use somebody else's genre, you actually have to fist fight.
I'm going to sell tickets to that.
I could take Michael Bancroft. Australians aren't too tough.
Yeah, he's not some tough electrician who works 500 feet below Manhattan. Come on.
I'm not going to go. I need several hours to explain what's going on at Warner Brothers.
He's soft.
And I'm not going to do it tonight. So, yeah.
Discovery doesn't know what to do. Yeah, I'll say this: DC doesn't know what to do with its own characters.
I'm not mad at Zaslav. He can't change all the writers. I mean, they hired James Gunn. I don't think he knows what to do with Superman.
It would take me 2 hours to explain exactly how.
No, that's okay. We can do it tomorrow.
And I'm not going to do that tonight.
Just better to leave them all in the past and move on to the indie.
Yeah,
it's such a the company is such an interesting way to put together. So I'm not going to go into it, but. When it comes to comics, it's real simple. Good story, good art, always sells.
You know what? This to me is the most infuriating thing about comic books in general is the fact that they don't know how to make a Blade movie. A Blade movie writes itself. You the black guy that you can. Could Wesley Snipes still do it? I think Wesley Snipes.
He probably still could do it.
He looked pretty good in
Right,
Deadpool 3, yeah.
So
I'm gonna do it in blackface, John.
CGI. I mean, they had what's his name, Count Dooku, Peter. What's his name, Christopher Lee, sword fighting at 98 years old. You know what I mean? So they can have Wesley Snipes with some CGI if he can't do. So you get the coolest guy, you get Wesley Snipes, and you kill mother effing vampires. That's it. You barely need a story, and this will make $1 billion. And the fact that people can't do it just shows me that they're idiots. Absolutely.
Okay.
I have a question. Back to Brian Michael Bendis. Do you think he writes bad comics in Marvel and DC because of the heads make him, or is it just him?
No, he's powerful enough that he could do what he wants.
Oh, then that explains a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave him the power right away.
Blade 1 and Blade 2 are great movies. They're having a second air right now. Yeah, Blade 3 is kind of where they went off the rails, right? Didn't they have the guys that they draw? It was cool looking.
I will say the funniest part of Deadpool 3 is when Wesley Snipes says there's only going to be one blade, and then Deadpool like looking at the camera is like, yeah, about that. But Blade, like Wesley Snipes, it's like he spoke that into existence, because what happened to that Blade movie that was supposed to be coming from Disney?
Well, the Marvel movies are bombing. The US aid is over with. You know what I mean? This artificial propping everything up is done. Things have to stand on merit now. So I think Marvel and DC are adjusting to the new wave things.
There's a lot of things going down in Hollywood right now because of the lack of money.
Yeah, I'm just saying it. Like Deadpool was supposed to be like looking at the camera, like, yeah, that's there is going to be a new Blade, but Wesley Snipes was right, which just makes that scene even more funny.
Yeah, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was a great comic, not so great a movie. It was the reason Sean Connery retired. I will say this about the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen: I love the concept. To me, that is one of the greatest concepts. but what's his name? Kevin Nolan, is that the artist? I don't like his art. His art really, to me, distracted from it. The movie was half-assed. They changed. Captain Nemo is one of my favorite. I'll say Captain Kirk, Odin, and Captain Nemo are three of my, and Superman are some of my favorite fictional characters of all time. And that they just got Captain Nemo. Alan Moore did him right in the comic. So that movie, that just bothered me. And the fact that they changed Fu Manchu, and I know that wasn't the movie's fault. I know that the Sax Romar estate just makes outrageous demands to use this character. But now that I think of it, isn't he in public domain by now? Fu Manchu? No, it's not.
Not yet.
But you know, if they just lowered their demands, they would use this character. You know, you get more.
I will be truthful. I love Fu Manchu.
Yeah, I read the first novel.
I mean, the movies with Christopher Lee, you know, they were great. They were fun.
Yeah, the new. Yeah, we were talking about the new movie has been canceled.
Well, no, it's not rumored. It is canceled.
Yeah, and it's absolutely ridiculous. This movie takes like 8 minutes to write. Just Blade goes to New York, kills mother effing vampires. What else? He finds a vampire nest. You know what I mean? He just kills, and all you got to do is have fight choreography and make it look good. You know. He has a daughter. Okay, you can have Blade's daughter in it. I'll buy that. You get some hot, sexy vampire hunter girl.
They made her a girl boss.
Why? This is my joke. I have a problem. Why is it now all the superheroes have daughters and nobody has a son?
Oh yeah. I mean, obvious reasons.
Because the future is female, James.
Yeah, I know.
Somebody said this. They go, the force is female. Star Wars is female, and now there's rape in it. What are you trying to say here? You know,
because lesbians can procreate.
Okay. Hold on a minute. So I gotta clarify something here. Did anybody read the original version of Return of the Jedi? Okay.
No.
The original. No. If you read, they explain what happened in Jabba's palace with Leia.
Yeah.
Right. They passed her around all over the place. It was not just her being chained next to him. No, she was passed all over the place.
And not only that, in the movie that we all saw, Jabba the Hutt feeds a monster. He takes a slave girl that's chained, begging for her life, and throws her the rifle. And then we all watch this woman. Well, we don't see her get killed, but we watch them watch her get killed. So it's just like, you know, I saw a female slave get devoured by a monster when I was 12 years old. So
and again, slavery was part of Star Wars.
Right, it always was.
It always was. I mean, sorry, but that's the truth. Even Anakin was a slave.
Right. I think they don't care about the demographic. Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, because I mean, how many times I'm raised in a half Hispanic family, and we all love Speedy Gonzalez, and that's supposed to offend us,
Yeah, that's what got Warner Brothers. Is when everybody went after Warner Brothers for taking Speedy off. They put him back, but again, that was under AT&T.
You know what's funny is you ask any Mexican, they love Speedy Gonzalez to the point when he wasn't in that in that movie. Why can't I think of the name of the movie? They were pissed.
Rabbit?
Yeah, not afraid. The Bugs Bunny movie, the basketball movie.
Space Jam.
Yeah,
he wasn't in it.
Yeah, and then they had to put him in the sequel because people are like, we love Speedy Gonzalez. I just love when people get offended for another race. You know, like you say you make like a Japanese character. The Japanese love that stuff. You know, you dress up in a kimono. The Japanese love that. You know, you dress up in a mariachi outfit. The Mexicans love that. You know, I just love how like white people get offended for other races. Calm down. People have senses. You don't have a sense of humor. Other people do. I saw somebody on Twitter said groups of men just get together and they're totally racist to each other and they think it's hysterical. You know what? That's a pretty good description of working construction. We were laughing at each other today. We were showing each other pictures of ourselves in the 80s. And it was funny because the black guy, he's like, I go, before you showed me this, you had a high top fade. And he goes like, you mother effer. And then the Italian guy go, let me see. You had Cavaricci's and you had the Italian horn. And he shows, you know, Stereotype
Oh,
for a reason.
I found that from me back in the 80s with long hair.
Slave bikini. Leah was passed around. Oh, she belongs to the. Slave doesn't mean
Okay, I'm ready for the Princess Leia porn now. Thanks.
yeah. Star Wars.
Okay, here's a battle for
You
you.
get it from Mike Wheeler.
Okay, I got.
I have no comment on that. I've spoken to
So,
Mike.
here we
I've
go.
been in contact with Mike Wheeler.
Princess Leia Star Wars versus Princess Aura Flash Gordon.
Oh, Princess Aura, Flash Gordon.
Princess Aura, man, that was just
Princess Aura, Flash Gordon was unbelievable.
Carrie Fisher was gorgeous. Don't get me wrong, but
Princess Aura.
she was so wholesome looking. There was something about her. Princess Leia was.
The way it was at school where I was growing up was you took Leia home to meet mother, and you went partied on Saturday night with Princess Aura.
Okay, I get that.
Princess Aura had like a hormone button. She just
But
turned
these
it up.
days,
She was the vixen, man. Oh my God, she was wow.
These gays get them both at the same time, don't you? In our debauchery days.
Yeah, every Mexican I know loves Speedy Gonzalez. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, man, when I kid you not, I was sitting there watching that movie. think I was 11 years old when the thing came out, and Aura came walking across that.
Yeah, that's an
that
unbelievable
first scene. I was like, holy crap.
You know what's funny? I saw the Conan movie in the movie theaters, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. That was like my introduction to Conan. The woman whose name escapes me, the blonde. I remember seeing that movie and I was like, whatever. Now as an adult, when I watch that, oh my God, is she the sexiest thing? It shows you how you taste mature as you get older.
I don't have Princess Aura as Sydney Sweeney, but this Lady Death I do could be Sydney Sweeney.
There you go.
Last week.
Put her in a bikini, paint her white. That just
see, look, this is kind of Sydney Sweeney-ish, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing Lady Death.
That is great. That is really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed doing it last week.
Well, I enjoyed it too. So
The character,
you did a great job too, James.
Marcus, the character that we're introducing, do it like that.
Yeah. So that's mine.
Yeah. She's gonna be. Yeah, that's reasonably thick.
That does raise a question about kind of Star Wars right now.
You in here? You were so quiet.
Oh, sorry. If granted, it's not going to happen, but if Disney did a complete flip, just changed it around, decided to cancel the sequel series and just pick up where Legends actually began, would people start watching it again?
I'm done with it. I'm very unforgiving.
The only way they could fix Star Wars, and this is the honest truth, is they would have to go back way before anything was done and start from scratch and stay truthful to the what George Lucas had written down in his wording and go from there, because everything they've done since number 6 has been complete gutter garbage.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if they retconned all of that and just started with like a Grandmaster Luke Skywalker and just went from there forward.
I'm talking about no Skywalkers at all.
Okay.
I'm talking about going back. I'm talking, if I was going to do a Star Wars movie right now, I would do Alia. I would tell the story of the Jedi Grandmaster who went completely insane, was sent to Dathomir, and got her mind back together and formed the Witches of Dathomir.
I'll say this,
because if you go back to the old stories, you know that when Luke goes and gets the library, the Witches of Dathomir are the ones that are guarding the library.
I'll say this: Star Wars is a limited premise. It's World War II in space. Once the war's over, it makes no sense to tell it anymore. Yeah. So, Star Wars is done. They screwed up. Carrie Fisher is dead. Mark Hamill is a big gelatinous cube. Harrison Ford might as well be dead. They squandered it. They can never capture it again. I mean, they could get that girl 11 from Stranger Things to be Carrie Fisher, to be Princess Leia. They look enough that she could pull it off.
She could pull it off, yeah.
But if you're going to do Carrie Fisher, go get her daughter. All she has to do is dye her hair black.
Do you think that maybe the fix for that would be animation, or is it too far gone even for that?
Star Wars is done. It's over. Let it go.
Yeah. That's the way they're canceling everything.
The only franchise that can be fixed because it's built into the premise is Doctor Who. Doctor Who is like dead, but Doctor Who reinvents itself. That's part of Doctor Who. So Doctor Who could do it, but Star Wars is gone. You know, I'm trying to think of Star Trek. They let Star Trek go. Let's make new things.
How about Marvel?
Marvel. They you know, just like the comic books, they could like, it's a sine wave. It could get really bad. They could pull out again. It's just they could just make
They
it.
don't have the talent. They don't have the
Okay,
talent.
so the franchises that I would go after, if I'm in charge of Warner Brothers, the franchises I go after is real simple. I go after Flash Gordon, I go after Buck Rogers, and I go after Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons movies, that's good because every movie could have a whole new party.
That's exactly right. And I would get the guys that are doing the special effects for House of the Dragon to do the dragons and everything. Keep it under $35 million budget. Make movies all day long.
I'll tell you this:
Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon.
I would love to do the Lensman. You know, I heard that Ron Howard bought the rights to do the Lensman movie, but I want to wait like a couple of years until this whole wokeness is gone, because the Lensman is so wonderfully, charmingly misogynistic. That's the charm. It, you know, like they literally like walking by and slapping the girls on the butt as they're getting in the spaceships and stuff like that. And if you remove that from the Lensman, then it's not the Lensman. You know, like there's a whole planet of naked women. So they make a female Lensman so that she could go there and talk to the naked women, and like, make sure you wear the uniform. And you know, it's they get. If they do the Lensman politically correct, it's dead on arrival. The new D&D movie was entertaining. Yeah. Yep.
Is anyone gonna go see that new Thunderbolts movie? Like everyone,
I've already had some friends go see it.
I'm waiting. I'm cautiously pessimistic. I have to wait. Like I don't watch like Daredevil. Everybody's like, you gotta watch Daredevil, and then everybody said it stunk towards the end. I'm so glad I never watched it.
Well,
I'm not gonna watch 6 hours of something and then I get the woke lecture on the 7th hour.
the reason I haven't seen it right now is the cheapest ticket's $16, and I'm like, screw that.
Andy Smith and Dennis Turner liked it.
I will say this, Logic's finest. I think you'd be surprised. I mean, look, I do think that the under 35 people, they've been basically showing woke stuff for like almost 20 years. Hold on. I think they've been showing this, but I do think if they were all of a sudden to be shown like a new movie with like traditional male role models and traditional female. Now, I'm not saying the women have to be like Sue Storm was, the invisible hostage, like, but like like the woman can't fight off 42 men. Well, the guy can't fight off 42 men. That's just as unrealistic. Like I do, like in Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones had trouble fighting one guy. You know what I mean? And he used guns and stuff. I think if we return to that, I think that the under 35-year-old would like awaken something. They'd be like, I like this. I'm responding to this. Like it you know,
It happened with Top Gun.
Right, it happened with although that was mostly older people, right? But
well, I also don't think the under 35 not liking the older stuff isn't entirely true. The new, pretty new Marvel Rivals game, all the designs are much more, super buff, super strong dudes and very sexy looking women, and they're the most popular characters on the internet right now. So as soon as they went back to those old designs, everyone loved them. So I don't think it's true that people wouldn't take to the older stuff.
Yeah, I'm saying the opposite. I think they would love it. They would be like, oh my God, this, you know.
I mean,
John Wick,
I'm living proof right here. I'm living proof right here. I love that stuff. And then I've always been longing for a good male role model, but growing up, it always seems like men are idiots or immature or like always lesser than the woman.
So
that's why the patriarch is super important to everybody.
See, I wrote my novels.
But it's not just me. Oh, sorry.
A straight factor, okay? And my novels have almost hit 90,000 in sales. So I know there's a market for classic D&D, Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers type characters. I know there's a market.
Absolutely.
And if you do them right, again, right, if you make them right, where they are not with a little flaw and not perfect, they'll succeed. They always do.
I think so. I think it's just going to respond to who we are as the way we evolved. You know, the reason why everything is so disturbing right now, it's going against like our evolution. It's social engineering, and there's such a strong reaction to it because it's not natural.
People want to control nature because they don't like nature.
Yeah.
I will say,
I know
like,
you're speaking on the exceptions that are proving the rule. Okay. Like, so yeah, John Wick. Oh, John Wick. My wife, she was like, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this. I heard a dog dies. I don't want to watch. Now, not only does she watch it, she knows all the names of all the ancillary characters that I have no idea. I just know John Wick, you know, but she knows every character. She loves it. She can't wait for the next movie to come out. You know, women love this. Women love tough men too, you know, and women love sexy women. One of the biggest criticisms I got about my comic was I didn't have sexy women in the first issue, which is why I amped up the sex appeal in the second issue, you know. But wait till you get to
coming out with that third comic, all sexy women, all
next issue
of Science City.
No, issue 4 for Oak Tales has a super sexy character that I'm trying not to spoil it.
Oh, good luck with that. I'll wait the 2 days for that. I'll hear about that one.
It is funny how the woke is like, they always express your sexuality, but it's like towards younger people. But when you're a grown man, it's like, that's disgusting. You shouldn't be doing that.
Right. Yeah.
It's like that wild.
Yeah. I don't know. Who says it makes sense? But this is exactly 3 hours now. This is a good time to stop. My throat is actually hurting from talking so much now. So I'm going to start with Luna, and we'll walk around. Luna, anything you want to say as we close it out?
I'll just keep as far as like YouTube, I am not planning on doing anything. I'm just going to be probably starting next month posting stuff on social media, so you can check out my X, my Instagram, same name, and you will start seeing me post my progress of art.
There you go. Zart, anything you want to say?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to get into manga, just pick up any issue of anything good right now and you'll enjoy it. And if you're going to go into comics, just pick out one of the famous ones. Court of Owls, Kingdom Come, something like that. Something that's popular for a reason.
All right, Marcus?
Well, tomorrow night, James and I will be on the studio. Saturday at 7 on the Don Draws channel. We were drawing Nexus. We might be doing Hojo's Mythical.
Oh, okay.
I am unsure. He posted something, but he didn't answer my question.
That's
so
good.
We'll see.
Support.
What do you want to draw, James?
Wow, that's a good question.
Which Blade?
No, I've drawn her. I've drawn her like every week for the last month. I don't need to draw her
Nexus, anymore. I'm all set for Nexus.
And everybody drew, and I wanted to draw Lady Death last week, so everybody drew what I wanted last week. So, shoot, what would I want to draw?
I would like to. I like the idea of drawing like Hojo's characters, so that he gets. I like that idea.
I don't know what his characters.
I like to know ahead of time, though.
What would I want to draw?
Yeah, you got to start early, like somebody over here, right?
Yeah.
I think about it for a while, yeah, but I don't start early.
So,
I'll do something before
James.
So James is going to be on the studio tomorrow, but also he's a novelist. Check out the Steins. James, you got to always be promoting. Always be promoting.
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm very happy because I just had a promotional company pick me up, so they're going to be doing a lot of promotions. So you'll be probably seeing ads all over the place for my stuff.
So when Sydney Sweeney
next week, the Nexus is today.
I think Sydney Sweeney would have to play. The only character Sydney Sweeney could play would probably be Carmilla, the villain.
There you go. So you heard it here first. Sydney Sweeney's going to be the star of the Steins movie by James Lee.
No. She'd probably be the villain, but she wouldn't be the star because that belongs to a raven-haired, blue-eyed girl. So yeah,
so he's bringing back Sophia Loren with blue contacts.
Megan Fox, although she's weird these days.
She's kind of a
I
vampire.
don't know. No, Megan Fox. No, more like Ortega would probably be the best fit.
Oh,
for
Jenny
her.
She's
Ortega.
looking a little weird. Jenna Ortega.
Jenna Ortega would probably be the best fit for Mary.
But the original looking Jenna Ortega, she looked a little weird in the last.
Yeah, she didn't look right in the last picture that I saw of her. I don't know if
Oh,
it's the lights or the makeup. But there you go. I'm John from John's Long Box, Heroic Tales number 2. We're this close to unlocking the first stretch goal. I'm hoping people back. I know it's like a 4-month campaign. Maybe we're in the doldrums, but I would like to get like double what we're doing now, so I can make issue 3. We got Marcus, he's working on a comic for me. I got Stippling Vong working on a story. I got a Tonic Mole and Oscar working on another comic. And then Renzo's going to do the patriarchal. So I need more support to. I can't lay out all this money. So yeah.
Yeah,
So,
you've got a lot.
Yeah, so we got a lot of irons in the fire right now. Thank you for all your support. I'm excited. I sent Marcus a script. I'm so excited to see what he does with it. Stippling is already. I didn't even send Stippling the script yet, and he's sending me concept ideas and things. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. And Luke Stone's got a script for the Sleeper Agent. So a lot of stuff going on. So, like I said, shut up and produce. That's what you got to do to make good comics.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
All right. Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. Nice being
And
with
next
all you
week,
guys.
Have a good night.
I'm unnaturally excited to do Greek mythology versus Norse mythology.
Hey, that sounds like fun.
That's going to be fun. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye,
good night.
everybody.